Hello, Globebusters. Yes, of course they're serious. You do? You have? No kidding. Uh-huh. Oh, they'll cure your globitis this week. Thank you. We got one!
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Globebusters.
What are you supposed to be, some kind of a cosmonaut?
No, we're exterminators.
And now, here's your host.
And welcome everybody to Globebusters, the Flat Earth Reality. I am your host, Bob, Xanadude60, and we are back for another Sunday show for you today. And we got a couple of interesting things to talk about. Probably won't be a really super long show today, because honestly, a whole lot didn't happen this week. But, I think we can make enough of them to talk through, and we'll see how that goes from there. And maybe we'll even take some phone calls. Who knows? Haven't done that in quite a while. But anyway, so some of the things we're going to be talking about today is some new evidence that the ball earthers are claiming is, kind of proving the ball earth. However, when you look at it, it doesn't appear to be proving much of anything because we're not getting any solid numbers on it. But ironically, because that came up, another piece of information serendipitously came up that seems like these tsunami locations might in fact be a better clue to a flat earth. So I just thought that was kind of ironic. And again, we don't have anything conclusive on it, and certainly neither do they, other than they have a map that says, oh, well, geez, this should be doing this, but we have no data that confirms that. And I'll go into that here shortly, but pretty weird stuff. So also we have a couple of promos we're going to be doing today. Karen B's promo for our Flattoberfest, and Mitchell from Australia is going to be starting a new kind of, it's kind of like the Flat Earth University series, but it'll be kind of an educational type of series in Flat Earth. And he wanted everybody to kind of put the word out for that. We'll run a promo for him on that. And so other than that, not a whole lot more stuff, but we'll see what comes up today. So let's go ahead and get to the introduction of the panel. And first up, as always, is Jaron from Jaronism. How you doing today, Jaron?
Doing great, Bob. Happy to be here. Hope everybody's doing well. Hello to everybody in the chats.
Cool. So were you were with your family this morning? Is that what was going on, or?
Yeah, we had a baby shower for Mrs. Sister-in-law yesterday out of town. So,
okay.
Yeah. Was there last night. Had a good time.
Yep. That sounds, I guess family things are okay. Sometimes they're a pain. Other times they can actually be fun.
Yeah. Baby showers, I could take them or leave them.
Yeah, I hear that.
So did you flat smack the baby shower?
A couple people talked to me about it, but no, not in mass. I didn't stand up on a pulpit or anything. No.
No flat
Next time.
smacking in mass. Cool. All right. Next up, we have John the Morgile with us today. How you doing today, John?
Hey, Bob. Hey, Jaron. Hello, everybody. Doing very well. Thanks for asking. Hope everyone's doing fine.
Yep. Sounds good. All right. And we also have Austin Whitsitt from Whitsitt Gets It. How you doing, Austin?
Hey, I'm doing good. How's everyone? Glad to be here with the familia,
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I know you said at the beginning of the show you're taking a little bit of time off. And I noticed, from the you're really attracting a lot of the trolls, from the last show and everything that happened, and that whole ordeal with Chris. And it's just like, I cannot believe some people sometimes. Jaron, John, I don't know if you know what's going on in this, but this is so freaking crazy that it's just unbelievable. I mean, Austin, we all know, we've been following him. He's been out there. Chris has been driving him around. They've been out there, going up against cops, adverse conditions, doing a great job, all this stuff. And then, of course, the incident, I guess we shall call it, at Mount Rushmore happens. And one particular part of the video, right? And of course, I misunderstood this myself, was it appeared that the cop came up and asked Chris how long he had been working for the government, right? And a lot of people caught on to this. And it's like, what the hell? That just sounded completely bizarre. And so now that Austin has taken some time off, and obviously deservedly so and understandably so, because, getting arrested every other day and getting a ticket can't be fun, but you kind of have to regroup. But now all these people led by trolls, and by the way, this is how I know this is controlled opposition type crap, right? Because you get these guys that come in there that are specifically saying, oh yeah, see, here we go. Here it is. Chris is part of a federal task force that's going to lead flat earth off the cliff and stuff like that. And they're not even flat earthers in the first place, but they're there right away to try and throw, gasoline on the fire, if you will. But, as we heard last week, I don't exactly remember what you said, something about Chris. I'll just let Austin tell the story. But so Austin, what is the story behind that? Just so we can get that clear for everybody.
Yeah, so I don't know. When I was asking Chris, a lot of people hit me up talking about it like that very day. He was like, "I have no idea. I didn't even know what to say." And so then in the morning, he was like, "So I think I figured it out. I was thinking about it like all morning, and I think that the only thing I could think of is the only time I've ever been like given a paycheck effectively from the government is when I had to take care of my mom. There's some type of program. He's from California, right? And the government sent him money to take care of his mom for a 6-month period. He was receiving like a paycheck or whatever for it to take care of her. He said that's the only time I've ever, received any money from the government, like at all. So that's all I can think of. And I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know. Maybe they found that when they looked you up, you're on like some, like where the government paid you. I don't know. But yeah, then of course I took the week off completely unrelated to this. I'm actually pretty desensitized to being arrested and going nonstop at this point. But I was just already had plans to meet up with a friend. And she was in the area, so we just decided to chill and just kind of wanted to relax for a week because I don't really make my decisions based off internet trolls, but yeah, of course that's added like fuel to the fire where it's like, oh look, they got busted on the live stream that Chris works for the government, so now he's also stopped doing content because he doesn't know what to do. I must have to talk to my handlers and see where I'm supposed to go from here. So you know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I think it's honestly kind of funny. I'm gonna do a stream probably tonight. I'm meeting back up with Chris today. And I'll do a stream and I'll address it or whatever. But so all Chris can even think about is that he technically worked for the government in the sense that he was getting a paycheck from them to take care of his mom or whatever. I know for a fact he's not an agent. Like, oh, wow, the CIA sent an agent out to get Austin. That's why he's been able to pick everywhere he goes, chooses on a whim where we're going to go, when we're going to go there, what we're going to do. He's aided my ability to get the word out there that I wouldn't be able to do otherwise. Like you really thought this one out. And then I found out most of these people aren't even flat earthers. They're not. It's always the people that are like, what about your loyal subscribers? But they're not loyal. They don't donate. They don't support. They're not even flat earthers. So it's just like a troll, basically. I don't know. I mean, of course, they're going to clamp on any opportunity they can to undermine me. But for me, I don't care. I needed to take a break, bro, just to relax. And then I'll be coming back starting tonight and then, pretty much every day from here on out. So, yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at with that.
Can I jump in with the obvious on this, or at least the obvious to me on this?
Sure.
I've watched the stream many times, and the officer was on a private conversation before walking over to Chris, who he knew was obviously filming with his camera, and they were doing the thing and filming it. And that's the first thing he's asked. I mean, it's pretty obvious if you wanted to be on camera and like put in a little Discorder that is something that you would do. That's a little bit of thought into it. I mean, without my thought into it, but on their part, what else, what would be the smart thing to do on their part if they wanted to know they're getting live streamed and know this is going on? That to me is beautiful damage control and a way to sow discord. Why would you, if Chris really was an agent, if he was a secret agent working for the government, why would the officer walk up, wait till he was right in front of the camera and say, how long have you worked for the government?
Yeah, exactly. Like just bust
I mean,
themselves out.
Right. Why would, yeah, let's, what would be the point of doing that? I'm just saying the obvious is why would he walk up to a camera and ask that question? He knew he was on camera. He knew it was being live streamed. They were all aware of this. This was all what they were talking about on the thing, is this is being live streamed and da 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 da. So
yeah, and there's another something else. There was some people were pretty attentive, and it's like when the cop was taking the call, it's as if someone that was on the phone with him was also on the live stream, because they knew I was passing out my cards. Everyone knew, and he walked to a certain distance away, as if he was being guided how far to go away, where they couldn't hear. We couldn't hear what he was saying. Right. Like you can actually see him kind of like be guided away from the camera. So they definitely had some of the local officers or whatever on that live stream.
They were watching the live stream. They were picking up. You're right. It's in there. But again, if he really was working for the government, is that how you deal with people that are working for the government? Is you get on it where it's on the live stream, stand right in front of the camera and say that?
Yeah, we have a master secret plan to derail the flat earth in Austin, so we're going to go put it on blast in front of everybody.
Right. So that's just my little bit of common sense is if he did work for the government, they wouldn't ask him. They wouldn't walk up to the camera to ask him the question on a live stream.
You can tell it's real because it looks so fake.
So fake, yeah. So again, just a thought, but I'll step back.
Yeah. No, actually, that's a good thought. And of course, I know Chris, but I couldn't really tell the voices. So obviously, a lot of people have a better hearing than me. But I was thinking, well, maybe it was Chris acting, asking the ranger, because that just made more sense to me. But no, if the guy actually did ask Chris that, then that is, truly bizarre. But again, you have these clowns that come in, Bobby E or whatever his name is. This guy, I looked into him. He's clearly a troll, right? Pretending to be some sort of, the Lord's servant, crusading for God, keeping all this truth out there. What a complete phony baloney this guy was. And he's sitting there instigating almost every other line in the comment section. Saying, oh, you better find out what's going on with us and all this stuff. And I'm just looking at this going, now, this is exactly what the ballers will do. They look for anything that they can do to, cast doubt upon, the people or their argument or anything like that. And they'll sit there and go through and instigate it. So, I mean, ultimately, I just banned him. But I was just in disbelief that this guy was doing that. But again, I knew exactly what was happening. And, now, for the benefit of you guys that don't know Chris, and granted, I don't know him that well, but I know him well enough to know that he's a really nice guy. It was huge of him to donate that, basically the use of that motorhome, which is huge. It's a big, expensive gas hug, kind of expensive kind of gas guzzling thing, but, expensive to maintain, but nevertheless, it's perfect for a mission, going coast to coast, essentially doing activism, right? Because you don't have to do hotels or anything like that. And so, in the long run, I think it comes out a lot better off. And of course, he, the only thing that is being paid for basically out of the funds is the operating costs of it, right? So he comes in, and not only is he giving all of his time to driving Austin around and, setting up all of this stuff, but, all the stuff that's going along with this. And, for somebody to come in and cast like he is some sort of government agency here to just derail it all is just unbelievable. And, flat earthers are prone to being very suspicious anyway. And I don't blame you for that, but come on, guys, use your head, because that's just stupid, to think that after all Chris has done, that he's really out there, trying to put the screws to Austin and this whole mission.
This dude stood toe to toe with numerous cops with me, always had my back, always watches my six when people sneak up on me. I'm saying, like, waited on me in Florida for days, paying money out of his pocket so that I wouldn't lose my stuff. I'm saying? So what someone on the other side of a screen has to say, typically not even real flat earthers, really doesn't mean too much to me. I know it was an inopportune time. I took a week. It was non-related. So yeah, I'll address all of it. And honestly, this made, if this does it for you, if you see me like spill my guts for a flat earth for 6 months and then you hear a cop say something and you're like, oh man, I'm out, then whatever, bro. Good riddance.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And that's exactly my take on that is if you're going to roll over that easy, with such a flimsy piece of evidence that, yeah, granted, it was a bizarre thing, but it doesn't make any sense, you know? But what does make sense is what Cammie came up with, and they were just trying to cast dispersion from there. But, like I said, when you got the paid trolls coming in to throw, fire on gasoline on the fire, right then and there that something else is up behind this, right? And it's certainly not with Chris. So, yeah, bunch of crazy crap. So anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So anyway, and of course, last up, as you guys heard, we also have Cammie with us, my wife, and she's going to just kind of give us a little bit of information on this first topic that we're going to talk about. And I'll start it out here shortly. Actually, though, before we get into this, you guys have probably noticed that I have been playing this video that was taken back, I think in 2016, when they had some eclipses going on back in 2016. And during that eclipse, and actually subsequent with several eclipses since then, we have gotten some footage of some really bizarre objects like this right here. This, well, actually, this is the eclipse itself. I'm sorry, maybe I should back up a little bit. But if you guys saw in the beginning, I'll go back here. What we can actually see going on outside of this thing as the eclipse is we can see these little black body objects that are out there. And the guy has actually marked them here, right? You can see the one there, one there, one there, one there. And then there seems to be another one just getting ready to cover the sun, right? And these turned up all over the place also in the photography for the 2017 eclipse from the ground. And of course, we also saw, multiple projections of them. And I forgot what the name of it is, but it has something to do with pinhole type of photography. But
camera obscura.
Yeah, camera obscura. That's exactly right. But you look at these things and you're like going, okay, this is really weird because these are not marks on the window. In fact, some of the other footage I've shown of this, they went to a completely different section of the plane and looked out from a different window altogether. And I don't know where that footage is off the top of my head. I have it somewhere, but when you do this for 6 years and you have all these hard drives full of, stuff that you've collected, it's kind of hard to put it all back together. And I'm trying to do that because I think this is something that is absolutely amazing. I mean, look at that. And
there's definitely something there. I mean, I've looked at this a bunch of times and it's definitely not scratches on the window. I mean, there's something in the sky there. It's so weird.
Yeah. And, it's funny because modern astronomers do not deny at all the existence of black bodies. In fact, they're talked about, well, they're widely talked about in astrology, but maybe that's one of the reasons that astrology is considered, hocus pocus, but it really isn't, because really, if you look at the lights in the sky for what I think they are, and, as I've said this before, I think they're much more than just points of light in the sky. I think that we live in an energetic matrix, a grid matrix, right? And that grid matrix is formed by the stars. So basically, if you have this grid that surrounds us, and you have certain celestial alignments with the wandering stars and the regular illuminated stars, and black bodies and et cetera, things like that, then obviously those energies are going to affect us, they're going to affect our psyche, they're going to affect our behavior. In the case with women, it affects their menstrual cycle with the moon. I mean, we are profoundly affected by things that go on up in the sky. There can be no doubt of this, right? As much as the mainstream wants you to believe that isn't true, the fact is it is true, right? And that's why billionaires use astrologers and millionaires don't, right? But billionaires do, because they understand this, that this astrology is probably the only science, and I will call it a science, because it's something that has really been proven, historically throughout the years. Whereas, astronomy and astrophysics and stuff like that, they cannot do anything. They cannot get out there. They cannot do any experiments, anything like that. But astronomy is something that has been known about for ages, right? Ages and ages and ages. And they most definitely do talk about these black bodies up there in the sky, as do some other astronomers that like the SLU astronomer guy, right? That we talked about that one day when we were covering the black body with Chris. So I'm just saying, guys, that if you have any more footage like this, or if you come across this, would you please send it to me? Because I really want to get a huge collection of this. I'm going to go through all my old hard drives. And so anything you find like this and any link, please send it to me. And I want to do a very in-depth show covering this, because there's people out there like Flat Water, Flat Earth that have really gone into deep detail on this. And I think this would be a really fascinating show to talk about with everybody, because to me, I mean, these are the very definition of Rahu and Ketu. Now, Rahu and Ketu can be looked at as either physical entities, or they can be looked at as nodal points, mathematical nodal points. There's several different ways that you can look at it. But when I look at these and I look at these things, there is no doubt they're physical, and this is not something that mainstream science has ever bothered to explain to us. In fact, they just keep completely quiet on it. And anybody that would ever have any evidence to the contrary, like we did with our second son, right? You guys all remember what happened with that. We had the secondary son. We immediately had Wolfie 6020 called out, by the cavalry, to say that Chris didn't know how to turn his little dial on the bottom, to get rid of the mirroring, right? No, Chris knew exactly what he was doing. And besides that, the secondary image was also polarized, which is absolutely unprecedented. And that, of course, they don't even talk about at all. So, we could be talking about the very same things when we look at this second sun, or these orbs in the sky, Rahu, Ketu, whatever they are. They've certainly been written about a lot. They've been talked about a lot. And to me, there's no doubt that these are what is really behind the cause of the eclipses. Austin, have you ever looked into these much? And, what do you think about them? Oops. You there, Austin?
Austin.
Hurt Austin. Come in, Austin.
Austin is on mute.
Uh-oh. Probably caught him right when he went back to the bathroom or something. Well,
you know what crossed my mind when I've seen that before? It's almost as if like there's things up there and they're hoaxing the eclipse. Like, I don't know, like maybe somebody put something up there in order to blot out the sun for several different vantage points. I don't know, but then it begs the question, what the hell are they and who's putting them up there? That's such a weird footage, man. I don't know what to make of it, but there's definitely something there.
Yeah, there absolutely is. Do you have any take on it, Jaron?
No, I don't. I mean, I would have to see it with my own eyes. Anything with a camera to me is questionable. It's just hard to know. To me, it kind of looks like there's something out there, but then again, I also know that things on glass, and then you've got double panes of glass and airplanes. It's just difficult. And I don't know what those might be. But I mean, it doesn't, change the fact that I'm not sure that they would have something up there trying to block the sun. It wouldn't really work that way. I would think you would have different angles from everywhere on the ground, right? So to me, it doesn't seem likely that there would be something up there, but it doesn't mean that. I mean, I don't know. I would have to see it with my own eyes.
Yeah. Well, and even so, and like I said, even if this was the only footage that we had, it's still very compelling, I would say. But, we also, during the 2017 eclipse, got these objects from the ground, which absolutely blew me away. And that is footage that I do have. I know I have it. It's just on a drive somewhere that, and I've got like 100 old hard drives, right?
It'd be interesting to juxtapose the formation of those things in this clip versus the one that you got from the ground. I just wonder, would it be in a similar formation of those little objects, whatever they are, or?
Well, on the clip also, another clip that I had was on another airplane, or maybe it was this one, I don't remember, but not only did we have the one view of them looking out over the wing, excuse me, but you could tell then that somebody went down and went up the aisle, up the fuselage several rows, and then looked out the window at them from there. And it looked like they were roughly in exactly the same type of position. So, that to me right there, so there's no freaking way that it's on the glass, right? Um, and not only that, the reason that he marked those on the glass versus something that we knew was a mark on the glass is it's very easy to really tell the difference, right? So,
right, yeah, I remember that. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely nutty. So it's just something that I think is super interesting, and I think that this is a really big clue behind. Well, I think it is the key to eclipses without a doubt. And I just want to do a little more information seeking on it, but I would really like to see all the footage that anybody has seen out there. And like I said, I will take on that tedious job of going through my old hard drives because I'm crazy. I archive everything, right? Anything I think is going to disappear, I archive it. And then I wind up with 100 hard drives, right, in a box and think, wow, I wonder what I did with that, right? So anyway, pretty crazy. So Austin, did you ever come back yet? Are you still there or are you not there? Wow.
He's still muted, so I don't know if maybe he's stuck on mute.
Yeah, that's so weird. Okay. Well, anyway. All right. So let's go ahead and get rid of that one. And let's go ahead and look at this really quick also. Now, I'm sure you guys remember that when Elon Musk, went up, or actually Branson, it was Branson and Bezos, right, went up in their little spaceships, right? And we were getting all this, oh, take that, you flat earthers, you're going to feel really stupid when they're, sending people up there, every other day and stuff like that, right? That's like, no, not really, because all they're doing is just a high altitude, vomit comet jump, essentially. That's all they're doing. That's all that was. That wasn't anything special at all. And on one of them, since he didn't theoretically cross the Kármán line, which I believe was Bezos, right? That they're saying that Bezos didn't even make it to space, right? That only the other one did.
You have that flipped, I think.
Did I have it backwards?
I think so. I think Bezos went to 60 and Branson to 50.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Bezos did go to 60 and Branson 50. Okay, my bad. But so anyway, so they're sitting here quibbling over, the 62-mile mark, essentially, right? Saying, well, you went to space and you didn't go to space. And now, I don't know if you guys remember, gosh, it was like about a year ago. They had this big thing where this lady comes up on stage, right? Wearing the new generation of spacesuits, right? And they made a big freaking hoopla over it, right? It was hilarious, to be honest with you. And, this is supposed to be the ultimate state-of-the-art spacesuit. And believe it or not, this is the reason for the delay of the latest astronaut moon landing, right? They say it's not feasible by 2024 due to spacesuit delay. Now you got to ask yourself, what the hell could possibly be wrong with the spacesuit that they can't get it fixed in 3 years when they supposedly did this in 69?
It's a painful process, though, Bob.
Well, and they had that technology, but they destroyed it, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
They didn't really destroy it. They put it behind glass at museums. Could go in there and actually probably look at it and just rebuild it, but no, that'd be difficult.
I mean, really, though, that's so absurd because they nailed it on the first try in the 60s when they first went up there, allegedly. And now that they've had 50 plus years, whatever, to hone those technologies, they can't do it again. I mean, wow.
You want to laugh your ass off. Watch James True's latest video on Brockman called Boobies on the Moon, and I was dying laughing, man. He's going through all this stuff and just he's so right. I mean, now they have added all these things, right? So now they say, oh, we have to have the gateway. We're going to go build a gateway first, and it's going to remain in the L1, L2 point in between the Earth and the Moon, and that's going to be our springboard. And then we'll take crafts there, and the crafts will go from there to the Moon. And this whole process that they're describing, I mean, even if it were real, we'd probably be there in like 2039, not 2024. Like all these things we have to build, all these crafts, all these different things, and then now they're like, oh, but we don't have the spacesuit. And if you go look at that, they've already dumped, I think, 1.8 billion into that spacesuit, which just goes away now, right? I mean, it's just, oh, I guess, it's so funny. I mean, the bigger joke with NASA is the James Webb Space Telescope. That is the joke of all jokes. I've never even seen anything, and it's celebrated. The other day I was on Twitter, and people were like, congratulations to NASA for taking a big step when it comes to the James Webb Space Telescope. And it's like, dude, do you know how far behind and how over budget that project is? It's got to break a record in all of Earth history, not even just space history. It's the telescope was originally supposed to go up, I think, let me pull it up real quick because I always forget. I think it was announced in 97. Oops, sorry, my bad. It was announced in 97, I think. Where is the Wikipedia?
So are they going to go with my dog ate my space telescope? Maybe that'll work.
It's so ridiculous. It says development began in 96 for a launch planned in 2007. Okay. So it's supposed to be, 11 years. And it was a $500 million project, 500 million. And it says now, but the project has had numerous delays and cost overruns and underwent a major redesign in 2005. The construction was completed in late 2016. So already 9 years late. After its extensive testing phase began in March 2018, NASA further delayed it. Launch was delayed again in 2018. Work on the integration of the telescope was suspended in March 2020 due to COVID. Oh man, COVID! We were so close. We almost had it up there.
COVID messed it up for us.
Yep. NASA announced the launch date has been delayed to 31 October 2021. What do you think the price is? If it was originally a $500 million budget, what would be bad? What would be an over?
1.8 billion.
That'd be pretty bad. It's higher.
That'd be really. Are you serious?
Yeah,
For a spacesuit?
No, space. The telescope, the James Webb.
Oh, the telescope. Okay. Yeah, that's really bad.
So, supposed to be 500 million, not 1.8 billion. Keep going up.
2.5 billion.
Higher.
5
billion.
Higher.
Oh my God.
All
the money in the world.
7 billion.
Higher. It's 10. Right now it's 10 billion, but I've heard 11. So $500 million budget, $11 billion, and the thing has not been launched yet, and it's ridiculous. And it's going to go up there, and it's going to, if it does anything, will send back pictures like Hubble does. It will do nothing for humanity. It's the biggest joke of all time.
But don't you know it's hard to be NASA?
Oh, space is so hard. But imagine, I mean, this is what they've done so well forever, is they give a project like, okay, we're going to build this telescope and we need 500 million. Great. The Congress signs it over, tax money goes to them. So at the end of the next year, it doesn't do them any good to say, oh yeah, we completed that project with the budget. It only behooves them to say, oh, we fell behind and we actually need another 500 million, because Congress is never going to just say, nope, forget it, we're scrapping that, because that means we just lost that 500 million, right? So instead, they always give them what they ask for. And so every year, they just go back and ask for more. Oh, yeah, James Webb is close, but we're going to need another billion. Well, what's Congress going to say? Like, nope, we're not giving you that. We're going to just dump the 9 billion that you've already taken down the toilet. Of course not. So they just keep giving them more money. It's such a joke. And if you've ever looked at this thing, Bob, you might want to look up James Webb Space Telescope. This huge octagonal thing that's supposed to unfold in space. I mean, and you bet your bottom dollar there will be no camera. You'll never get to see this happen. To think that a telescope, which is like that would have to be so perfectly designed and then launched I mean, the vibrations alone would, it's just such a joke. Yeah, this thing is going to just, oh, it's so beautiful. And one of the funnier things, I remember when Landry Chamberlain was talking to Fight the Fat Shirt, and he says, whenever we do things in science, it always turns out the way that we want. And he said, when we wanted to do this, we did it. When we wanted to build a James Webb Space Telescope and put it into space, we did it. And now it's in space. And he keeps going on and on. It's like, dude, it's never been launched yet, idiot. You're telling people that it's in space, and that every time we want to do something, we do it, and it's just perfect. It's so funny. This thing is...
They can't even keep up with their own propaganda.
No, and I can't even
Bit
imagine
of, bit of
this
irony, though. I mean, if you're a fan of irony, there you have it. I mean, feast your irony sensors.
And then I've also found some pictures. I showed them on my show a few times where they've clearly used CGI to place that telescope in that room, because I found I don't know, that picture down below, Bob, where it says GIF next to the word web, a little bit to your left. A little lower than that. One lower and to the right. One to the right.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, bring that picture up. Yeah, so you'll notice that there's like that blue line that goes around the ceiling there. I don't know. I was showing in some of my videos where that line is like missing, and that they cut it off because they put the craft in. Look at that thing unfolding. Oh,
Wow.
Space porn. And then when you have mirrors like that, you can see back in time millions of years. There's no bigger man worship than to believe that these guys can see back in time, and that they're going to discover the origins of the universe with this telescope.
What's crazy, Jaron, is you have what is it? Not Blue Marble Science, but maybe it's Blue Marble Science. I mean, one of the guys that has the telescopes. He has to know full well. I think he has like a 12-inch Celestron or something like that, which is a little bit bigger than my 10-inch Meade. And first of all, you have to understand that all the magnification does not come in from the big opening, the big aperture. That's, to give a good amount of light is what that big lens is for. All the magnification just takes place in that little bitty eyepiece. And again, when you look at the magnification that the eyepiece provides, it's barely better than a good pair of binoculars. So, if I was to take, let's say, the Hubble, right, for example, and if I could take it up to Squaw Mountain and overlook Denver, right, and look to the east, it would be highly unlikely that I would even be able to see the town of Lyman, which would be only 80 miles away, right? Because it would just be too small, too far away. And they don't have enough magnification. And not to mention, of course, all the other atmospheric variables. But, I seriously doubt that I would be able to see that. And so what I'm saying is that the magnification factors, they want you to believe that it's so great that you can literally see back in time, right? It's like, what? Yeah, a nanosecond? It's ridiculous. These things that they want you to believe, and it's just not realistic. And anybody that has had any experience with a telescope at all should know that. And these super duper power ones, like Hubble or any of the ones that they've launched on 747s, all of those are relatively low magnification, even compared to a pair of binoculars. It's just, it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy what they've convinced people that we can do with these telescopes. It's really insane. If people just used their head for one time and didn't have this, deflection of, oh, those guys must know, those guys have done it, those guys have tested it, they must see these exoplanets, they must know where they orbit, then people would just use their brains to realize that even the story that they tell us, we live on this giant ball and we're just little tiny mites on this giant ball and it's flying through space. Then we are supposed to believe that these little tiny mites figured out how to use tubes, and they figured out how to grind lenses and mirrors. And when they put those in there, now we can see the whole universe, and we can see back in time, and we can see trillions of miles. And it's so fantastical. It's beyond even like Narnia. It's beyond even people's wildest dreams. Yet they sell it to you as if it's real, and people just eat it up. They love it. And it's sad because they can just get away with anything. So they can pretend they shot this thing up there. And sure, I'm not saying that there's not engineers there actually thinking that they're building this thing. I'm sure that they are. They're thinking that they're building this, and they think it's going to get launched up. And when it does, it'll disappear. And then they'll get some pictures back that'll go through a computer processing, and they will all be standing in a room, and we'll see them all cheer when the first image comes back, and they'll jump around and high five. And this is the game plan that they've used for the last 40 years. And people just fall for it every time. And it will be, of course, it's NASA, so they can put out a press release that goes to every news, and it will go to every news station, and every news will pick it up, and they'll all say, look what we did today. And they'll never mention that it's slightly over budget from the 500 million originally. And just slightly. And never mention that as of right now, even if it launched this year, it's what? So what did I say it was supposed to launch again? I forgot the date. 2007 was it supposed to launch? I think originally. Whatever.
Yeah.
So now, I mean, we're talking about it being, what is that? Way overdue. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
15 here. About
15 years.
Years almost. Well, and that's really the thing, though, isn't it? Because flat Earth, round Earth, whatever. There's not a big difference in one's day-to-day life, according to which version of it this happens to be true. But when you realize that the concept of infinite space becomes a lie, and pretty much everything that NASA purports and everything that they come out with is necessarily a lie, that's really the crux of this whole thing, isn't it? So it's not so much whether it's round Earth or flat Earth, it's whether or not we live in an infinite space universe, or if the Earth is pretty much all that there is. And it appears that it is the latter, right?
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to me is worldview. And, even saying it's a flat Earth or trying to look at the azimuthal equidistant map, I'm not claiming any of those things are 100% correct as far as the way that I might see them now. What I know can't be correct is the model that we've been sold and its impossibilities, right? I mean, it's just, it's the only way you could ever convince somebody of those things is to brainwash them at a very young age and to, basically use this lie of science. And it's just very easy. It's very easy for them to pass it off.
The thing you mentioned about the azimuthal equidistant, I think there's problems with that too. But could you imagine trying to take your journey from round Earther to flat Earther without the AE map? I mean, I never would have gotten. I mean, it accounts for circumnavigation, the seasons, day and night. So all that stuff is in there. Now, sure, there are apparently some problems with it, but that isn't to say we should throw out the baby with the bathwater, because I think that in terms of a tool to explain, how does physical reality work, if it's not a heliocentric system, then what are we working with? And the AE projection really does a good job of explaining how a lot of things work on a flat Earth that otherwise, if we didn't have that, I don't think I ever would have made it to flat Earth proponent, right?
And we have to hold on to, there's too many people who go off the deep end in this community because they get latched on to some particular point in that map and they think that it has to be that way, when it's just like, just keep an open mind. You're fine. But some things are the way they are. One of those being that the sun circles the North Pole. That's there's too many people that I know that I've talked to, too many videos constantly every year. Somebody's doing a time lapse from there. And it's a no question that Bob's saw it. Bob's been to Alaska and he's seen the 24-hour sun circle around him. But there's still people out there who say that does not happen. And and then they go off on these tangents and run their channel for 3 years into the ground because they won't get off the fact that they say that doesn't happen. But there's other things like that where they say, we see clouds behind the sun. And it's like, okay, listen, we are saying that the sun is not an actual item. We're saying that it's what you're seeing, or at least I tend to believe it is a reflection. Or if you kind of think of the way lenses work and then how the, any kind of light will come in and it will find a focus point on the other end of a lens, it makes sense to me that with the sun that we see is nothing more than that focal point. And this is why when people say, well, how does the sun move so much faster around the outside of the Earth? Well, I don't think, like Dave Weiss describes it, take a flashlight and hold it and do a small circle with the flashlight or on the ground, okay? And now just do a little bigger circle with that light on the flashlight. Now, did the light that you did, is it going faster? Well, yeah, but that's not the light that's moving. You're moving the flashlight, right? I mean, I've also talked about that before when it comes to like the speed of light. They say that the speed of light is a certain speed. Okay, well, I've said before, well, let's say we could point a laser at the moon, let's just say, and we're pointing a laser at the moon. Let's say the moon is 238,000 miles away, like they say. Okay, great. We point a laser at the moon and we do a circle with our hand. So we go around our head and we come back to the moon. Well, technically that just moved way faster than the speed of light. If you're talking about that beam that hit the moon, that's now traveling that circle that I do and coming back to the moon, way faster. But no, that's not, you can't count the end of a laser light. That's not speed, right? So it's kind of the same thing. You're putting this light through, call it a dome, whatever, lens, and then you get that focused point of light and you would be able to see clouds behind that. And it's also one that would move based on where you're at, right? That's why you would never be able to triangulate it. That's why you would have issues triangulating it. So I have those beliefs. It's just funny to me that everybody takes these things and rather than have an open mind and say, okay, let me think about ways this could work, and they get on this kick where they hold on. Oh, if we can see clouds behind the sun, then it can't be this. And it's just baffling to me. I get it. I see it all the time from tons of different areas.
Well, I've never traveled to the North Pole. I've never actually been to the equator either. Certainly never been to the southern hemisphere, let alone the South Arctic Circle. And so I have to take people's word on a lot of things. And that, there's a good chance that things are not as we've been told in terms of problems with the AE projection in the southern hemisphere. Um, I think that we have a lot of mapping to do, a lot of geodetic surveying to do, and until a lot more data is been compiled, there's a lot of mystery, I think. I mean, look at all the issues that the mariners that were tooling around in the southern hemisphere, the 1800s and before. I mean, they were indicating that there were issues with the standard model that we have. And so I just think until we have a lot more data and we're able to map this thing out physically by physically going to places and charting, I just think there's a lot of mystery left, and we can't just necessarily say, something like the AE projection is all that off. I mean, I've been explained, I've seen the issues with it, but it's not enough to just completely disregard the whole thing because, there is something to it. And yeah, I know exactly what you mean about the sun not being a physical object, and so therefore not having to accelerate or decelerate depending on the season. I just think that it makes perfect sense if you start to realize that the sun may not necessarily be a physical sphere in the sky, right? Nor the moon either. I mean, they may be optical phenomenon far more than they are a physical phenomenon. And if that's the case, really, all the rules that we're familiar with here in 3D reality do not necessarily need to apply to those celestial heavenly objects. Right?
Yeah. Hey, Bob,
I was going to say, why we're looking hard at different possibilities for it to work in reality, and we've come across, different options. Keep in mind that people that are bashing us have, from thin air, created dark matter and dark energy to make up 97% of their model.
Right.
They're saying that less than 3% of their model actually works, and yet they're cherry picking at us, looking at the different possibilities. So take that all in context with it. They have a lot of balls to do that. But go ahead, Jared. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, you're totally right, though. I mean, it's like they call that verified universal facts, verified facts about our universe, the things that 97% of it we've never seen before. And Bob, I was going to ask you, because I saw somebody was doing a test online, or maybe I think John knows too. Things are heavier or lighter at the equator, according to their model?
They would be lighter.
Lighter, yeah. In reality,
because
it's
of centrifugal force.
Yeah, and that's the way that it is. But I would say that it's accounted for by barometric pressure. But hey,
right. And so, yeah, with barometric pressure, because I mean, if you look into the stratosphere, right, the stratosphere starts at different heights at different locations, and it's the highest at the equator, right? So it seems to me that if you're talking about where the most kind of heavy air would be on top of you, you're talking about at the poles. That's where and it's half as high. So they say the stratosphere starts at the equator, 66,000 feet. They say it starts at the mid latitudes, 33,000 feet, and then starts at the poles at 23,000 feet. So you're talking about a third, actually, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just, if you have that kind of a change above you, I think it would clearly change the weights of items. Slightly, not by 10 pounds, but I mean,
right. But compare that to what would you expect it to be? And I've seen the math worked out. But if you're talking about a spinning ball at the equator, you're supposedly going, 1,000 miles an hour? Yeah, just over 1,000 miles an hour along a curve at the equator, versus at the pole, say the North Pole, just to keep it simple. You're supposedly not spinning at all. And so I would expect there to be a great disparity between just the simple experience that you have standing at the equator versus standing at the pole. And yet the only difference appears to be just a very slight minor variation on the scale. And again, that's allegedly. I mean, I can't think of any example of something, where someone weighed an object at the equator and then, had it shipped to the North Pole and had it weighed with a similar scale or maybe the same scale. Never seen that done. Never seen an experiment done to prove this. Although, we'll go on record and say that it is the case. And the ballers use it as proof for the ball.
Right.
But I just don't see it being that great disparity that you would have between going, just faster than the speed of sound along a curve versus barely spinning at all. You know, half the speed as the hour hand on the clock at the pole.
Right, they say that you suppose, I heard Neil deGrasse say it the other day that if the Earth stopped spinning, everything at the equator would fly 1,000 miles per hour to the east, right? So
right.
if that's the case, but there's at the North Pole, somebody standing there wouldn't notice, technically speaking, at all that the Earth stopped spinning, because they're going, say, 1 miles per hour and then it stops. So that difference, how could that only equate to a tiny little difference in your weight? If in one place you're rapidly flying, and at any stop you're going to continue flying in 1,000 miles per hour, where the other place you would never notice. To me, those have to be vastly different changes in your weight.
Yeah. Well, they also say that you should have something like a 4 to 6 kilometer buildup of water at the equator, right? But it's not there. It doesn't exist.
It's even like 20.
I am, yeah. I'm going to come in as a expert on weights and measures just because I have over 30 years of, for legal purposes, determining weights and measures on things that weigh very, very tiny amounts that I'm weighing out in a thousandth of a carat or a partial of a gram. First of all, when you are measuring items, there are a couple of things I'm going to throw out to make your scale legal for trade in order to do it legally. Number one, the scale must include a level to make sure that your surface is level. And number two, it has to have a calibration or a cross weight. So when you set it and level it, you actually set the weight by a counterweight and calibrate it. That's how weights are done legally. Now you can have your different pressure variations, but again, you're starting with your scale in order to accommodate for different pressure variations, altitudes, and that you get throughout the whole scale, like being on altitude, being at different, just like your lighting changes. Another legality is you can only grade color by northern daylight. These things have meaning and there's reason to them. But again, I find it interesting that the legal requirements are that you have to have a bubble level or a level on it that you can level it. And two, you have to calibrate it with a cross weight. It's not a scale that you just take and stand on without when you're doing legal measurements. That's why people don't like buy and sell gold at going to different altitudes, levels, and pressure differences, and they weigh more or less. I mean, it's already accounted for. What they're doing is again, you can pick out, and your pressure mediation just on an electromagnetic basis would be different towards the center than not towards the edges and that. Yeah. So again, I think that you can cherry pick and make little arguments when you're stepping outside of the box and saying that that's really not how things work in reality, nor do we work them in reality that way. People, they throw these things and we're not even thinking about it when we're defending our answers, that there's nothing to defend here.
Yeah. You know what I was thinking too is, I know a lot of people don't have a lot of faith in the gravimeters or anything like that, but one of the things that I was thinking about is like, if they're saying that there has to be a 46 kilometer buildup of water at the equator, what kind of a force would that take? And, you would think that the centrifugal force that would be offsetting the so-called, the gravity that would be along the equator line, you would think the gravimeters would see a substantial difference in downward acceleration there, right? But they don't. In fact, they hardly see any change at all. And even the change along the equator from the data that I've seen varies from place to place. So there's nothing consistent, again, with anything that goes along with a spinning ball Earth, especially on these forces that should be there and absolutely are not. We should be seeing this centrifugal force manifest in multiple ways. For crying out loud, it's why they say the Earth is an oblate spheroid, right? Because of the pressures that are being generated from the centrifugal force that is throwing the midsection out and compressing the top and the bottom, right?
Right.
And the most obvious place you would see that would be in the water, but there is no water buildup there at all. So, I mean, they got nothing. They absolutely got nothing except a bunch of stories.
That is a problem, though, isn't it? Because they do claim that the world is not a perfect sphere. No. They say that it's an oblate spheroid due to this centrifugal force. And yet the experience in terms of a human level, which, the difference between 1,000 miles an hour going around a curve and not, that's a world of a difference. That there is no experiential difference down here on the ground in reality. To me, that speaks volumes. I mean, you would expect to be able to tell the difference. I mean, especially in light of the fact that they are claiming that it causes that bulge in the, in the center of the sphere.
And water is heavy. Water is dense. Like, I don't know. It just makes no sense to me that it wouldn't affect me much at all on the equator. If you're talking about, I mean, what are they claiming? I mean, you're talking
a few
not
grams.
Even ounce, right? Yeah. So you're talking barely nothing. Yet it's pulling the water up. And I think I read the equatorial bulge is 30. I just had it up and then I went away from it. It is 27 miles wider at the equator than at the pole. So, I mean, that is insane to me. That's a lot of pulling, and that's a lot of, it's just, I've never understood it with the Gravitron, the ride that we've all been on, that, spins and flings things to the outside, and that's what I would expect on the Earth. But then they say, oh, no, you're being pulled to the center, which, again, doesn't make sense to me either.
No, especially
well, you're also, I mean, you're supposedly being pulled to the center at an equal rate at the pole as well. Right. So, I mean, that force has to go somewhere. Right. I mean, because it's counterbalancing you at the equator. So because that's the whole reason they had to invent gravity, is so we don't go flying off the sphere at 1,000 miles an hour. Right. But where is that force at the pole? And it just simply isn't there.
Right. Well, and of course, another blatant problem is centripetal force, supposedly. Right. Where is that ever? I mean, the only demonstration you ever get of centripetal force is they will say, oh, well, just imagine the ice skater when she pulls her arms in, right? You are decreasing your center of gravity and it makes you spin faster. It's like, but that doesn't mean that you are increasing a force towards the center so much as you are decreasing the centrifugal force. But there is no true opposite of that. There is no centripetal pulling in anything. Right? It's just not happening.
We have, from the chat, by the way, we have a gentleman in the chat who calibrates scales for a living, who's fabulous. And he says, the funny thing about sensitive scales is that they have a correction factor due to geographical gravity variation. We never adjust it. And I thought that was fabulous too. I thought my scales were fairly sensitive. I did not work scales with a living, but I worked with scales with a living, and I know that the measures I worked with were taking it to the thousandths of a carat in diamond and gem weight, which is fairly tiny, and to the 10,000ths on like some of the finest equipment I've worked on. And a little bit further. So the fact that on our scales, we never had that, but we did have to level it. But I think it's fabulous to hear from somebody doing it for a living that said we never adjust it. I didn't either. I didn't have those on my scales, and I have a lot of scales.
Yeah. Well, and you guys may remember I told the story about the engineer that I met in Denver. He had joined FE Corps a few years before we lived in Denver. And his shop, he's actually married to a woman who their company deals a lot with Elon and space contracting, et cetera, et cetera. But his personal business is a calibration engineer. And what he did was he calibrated all kinds of test equipments and, for length measurement, weight measurement, all kinds of stuff like that. And one day we were at his office, and it was like a Friday night, and he had a Michelson type interferometer in there, right? A Michelson-Morley type interferometer. And he goes, you want to see something really cool? And I'm like, yeah. And so he fires up the interferometer, right? And we're sitting there watching it, and it's showing a contraction in length, from where it was, since it started out. And it was contracting and contracting. And it's like, what is doing that? He goes, you want to know what that is? And I go, what? And he goes, when we left the shop, we turned the heat down, right? And so it got colder in here, which caused things to contract. And the Michelson interferometer is so sensitive that it actually picks up the contraction of things in just a few degrees temperature change, right? That's the kind of
the
sensitivity.
amount that objects contract and expand due to heat or cold is pretty amazing, though. Like, I mean, it is measurable, and especially with something like that. I mean,
They wanted to. Somebody wrote me one time, was talking about the. I'm going to get the name wrong. It's a bridge in New York. Starts with a V. Anybody know the Verrazano Bridge? Does that sound right? No.
I'm not familiar.
Somebody in the chat will know. Sorry. I'm a West Coast guy, so I think it's called the Verrazano Bridge. And if you go to the Wikipedia, they love to play this one part of the Wikipedia article says that they had to take in the curvature of the Earth in designing it, and therefore the two upper, the two main posts, whatever you want to call those, are separated at the top by, and I'm trying to find the exact distance. It's like 1.5 inches or something like that, right? And so, they showed me this. You'll see this means that, if obviously if they had to use this and the Earth is curved, and you're like looking at it like, man, maybe you're right. Then you start looking into it a little bit more, and you find out that there's certain areas of the bridge that they say are changed by like 15 to 23 feet in the winter versus the summer. So, for instance, the road of the bridge is 23 feet higher during the summer than it is during the winter when it's
wow.
Right. So, like, if that's how much it changes because of the contraction in this metal, then how would anybody be able to measure an 1.5 difference between these two upper posts?
It's just within the tolerances of the,
so ridiculous.
Imperfection.
It's like, who's measuring that? I mean, nobody's ever measured it. It's just being said. And realistically, to me, anyway, you would never need to design that in, at least according to me, I don't think you would need to take that into account if you're building a bridge, even if it was on a sphere. So you wouldn't need, we need to make these posts wider apart at the top. You would do that in just building a bridge anyway. Obviously, you wouldn't build it with the posts exactly straight up and down because if there's any give, it's going to bring those in, right? So maybe you do start them out a little bit, but certainly not for the curvature of the Earth. No way. Yep, but I was just commenting because you're talking about how much things change with the contraction of metal.
It is amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, you wouldn't expect it to be so much, but it is. Like just between a hot day and a cold day, things will expand and contract a great deal. And the 1.5 inch. I know they say that about the Golden Gate Bridge as well. They say that it's a little bit wider apart at the top than it is at the bottom because the vertical beams. Yeah, they do. They say the Golden Gate Bridge, the vertical beams are because they're each going perfectly vertical at their relative spot, but then in between the two, they're pushed out, because it's on a curve. But I would say that that's just more theoretical because they believe that we live on a curve. Because of course, when you're building a bridge, you're going to have those plumb. You're going to have those perfectly level and plumb at the location that you're at. And so hypothetically, yeah, if you lived on a sphere, then they would be wider apart at the top. But I don't think that's verified. I don't think anyone's actually gone and measured for that because, well, frankly, the Earth is flat.
How would you measure it anyway, considering that it changes? The bridge height changes by 23 feet.
Right.
Just reading here from the Wikipedia, it says that because the height of the towers, which is 693 feet, and their distance from each other, which is 4,260 feet, the curvature of the Earth's surface had to be taken into account when designing the bridge. The towers are not parallel to each other, but are 1 5/8 inch. Everybody hold up your fingers and 1 5/8 inch. Okay, put your thumb and your pointer finger and realize how small that is. That is tiny, tiny, tiny. That's like, I don't know, maybe the length of your thumb, less than the length of your thumb. So, I mean, to think that little distance needed to be somehow included in the design so that these huge tires and then huge towers, go look up the Verrazano. It's called the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. Picture that bridge and then picture somebody telling you that because of the curvature of the Earth, that they had to make sure that the top of those towers were 1 5/8 inch farther apart at the top than at their base, which, like John just said, nobody's ever measured that. It's theoretical. It's mathematical.
And really, that's absurd. I mean, because look, I guarantee you, if you look at the blueprints or the plans for that bridge, they're assuming that it's built on a level plane. There is no curvature taken into account when they're designing and building these things. That's frankly that's bullshit.
Yeah, it's insane that anybody would believe it. But again, these are the things when you're so desperate for globe proofs that just you take anything, right? You just run with it. So it's the same thing we just talked about with the weight changing, is because somebody will say, well, if the Earth is a sphere, then weight would change opposed to the North Pole and the equator. And therefore, these guys will get in a plane and they'll take a little scale with a little calibrated weight and they'll fly from North Carolina down to Mexico. And when they get a slight change in the weight, they say, yep, there's proof Earth's a sphere. Like, oh, yeah, there's no other options. You're right. It has to be that. Can't be anything else possible that would ever adjust the weights of a tiny little item, and we're not talking about it's 3 pounds here and 8 pounds here. We're talking about it's 3 pounds here and it's 3.0001 pounds here. But again,
Right.
look at things like you said, barometric pressure. Look at things like the stratosphere being higher at the equator, which is you're going to have less of that heavy, dense air on top of you than you would at the poles. That would make a huge difference in weight. So again, these things are just offered as little cookie crumbs for these guys who think they're smart. They didn't come up with any of these ideas on their own. They never made a math formula that they came up with their own. They didn't discover calculus. They didn't discover anything about space. They never discovered a planet. They don't know anything about rotation. All they know is what's been told to them. And so they feel very smart in the fact that they're able to repeat it. And then there's little cookie crumb experiments that they can go do if they want that will confirm every time for them that the Earth is exactly as they've been taught. And they feel very comfortable.
It's amazing to me because flat earthers are often accused of confirmation bias, but I would say that it's completely the other way around. I mean, you have to really accept a lot of confirmation bias is rampant with the globe earthers. I mean, they're constantly looking for justification. They're not trying to debunk their beliefs.
Right.
But, as a flat earther, we've been down this road. We were the ones that were honest with ourselves that to accuse us of confirmation bias, to me, that's just bass backwards. But no, we do. We see it just all over the place with the globe earthers. They look for evidence to support their side of this. And it's a shame because, obviously.
They want to blame us for it. But the thing about it is if there's anybody I want trying to, bring things down and trying different ideas, is anybody trying to disrupt current beliefs and understandings, right? That's the people that I want to. If you think something that we believe now is false, then yeah, go attack it, try different things, throw shit at the wall. That's the way you're going to get to the bottom of it. Yet we have people now that call themselves into science, but they're anti-science. They are about dogma. We already know all the answers. Everything is settled. Anybody who's questioning it, which is skepticism, right? Well, those people are crazy. How dare you question science? Think of the going nomenclature going around right now, which is trust the science. There's no bigger joke than that. And the fact that anybody ever adopted that and says that, you don't trust the science, you don't trust the science. Well, the science is the opposite of trusting. That is the opposite of, why would you ever trust science? That doesn't make any sense. Are human beings the ones doing the scientific tests? Are they the ones coming up with the answers? Then we shouldn't be trusting science. And yet this is what they go around saying. And if you don't trust science, oh man, you're scum of the earth. You have to trust science, even though we know how many times in history has science turned out to be wrong. It's just a process. It's just a process, and it can be done correctly or it can be done very incorrectly. And you can go around trying to confirm your beliefs. And again, I always bring up Edwin Hubble because it's the most glaring, obvious, over-the-top explanation. And yet, somebody on Twitter the other day told me, "Oh, Jaron keeps misattributing this quote or something." I'm like, how am I misattributing the quote? It's very clear when he says that the fact that the Earth is the center of the Earth or center of the universe and everything moves away from us cannot be disproved by experiment or observation. So he's claiming we can't say that we're not the center of the universe, but we can come up with other ideas, right? And he says the reason they have to come up with other ideas is because the absolute whore of a unique position. It is, it cannot be held because they hate that idea. That idea puts them as important. That idea puts their probably being a creator. So what did they do? They tried to find anything they could to explain it away. And when they found the one idea, which was a balloon with dots on it and blowing it up, that they then said that's the truth, which is that alone tells you, and we've got people like George Ellis out there saying, that he can construct a spherically symmetrical universe with the Earth at its center, and you'll never be able to disprove it based on observations. And he said a lot of cosmology tries to hide that. And that alone should be clue to these guys who think that everything that they do is scientific and it's all verified and science is about. No, it's not. Your guy just told you what's going on here. That a lot of the models that they've adopted and use are based on philosophical criteria, meaning that they have a certain worldview. And so they put everything that they observe into that worldview, and they ignore the worldview that they don't like. So even though the observations tell you are the center of the universe, rather than explore that, take that down the road, try and go down there and play with it a little bit, they shunned it. They said, absolutely not. We'll never look at that. It cannot be the truth, not because of observation and testing and experiment, but because of worldviews. And so when you see that, I don't
philosophical preference, which has no place in the actual scientific method, but there it is.
None, but they use it. And then look at what Stephen Hawking says. Same thing, right? We base all this off of modesty. So they're saying because we're modest, because when they're not being modest, what they're saying is we are the most intelligent and special things ever, not anything above us. So they're saying we humans are the most intelligent thing that there ever was, and therefore there is no possible creator. There can't be. And so they try to describe everything without putting that into to place. So yeah, I mean, it's so clear that these are worldviews. And then you've got people that come along, whoever's after them, Neil deGrasse, these guys. Neil deGrasse has never done an experiment. He's never tested anything. He's never written. I don't think he's. I think you have to write one paper to get a PhD. So I think he has one paper. Probably wasn't even published because he's just a popularizer. He's a memorizer. He's a parrot. He just goes around and says, "Hey, this is what I learned," and I still think it's insane to this day why you would ever give PhDs to astrophysicists, considering none of them have ever been to space, which is hilarious. It'd be like us giving MDs to doctors who have never touched a human body. We would never do that. That's insane. And so yet we give PhDs to people who read a book about the sky, never gone there, never done an experiment there. They just believe it, repeat it, and it gets passed on and they become the teachers. And from there, but yeah, it's the, if you want to search Edwin Hubble, The Lie That Keeps on Lying, or something like that, I think it's called. It's on my website. I have his book, but it's very clear that that is one of the ones that people should be aware of because it's everything that their world is based off of now. This is why science can't go back and ever look at its foundations, right? Because the whole thing could crumble down. So when Edwin Hubble looked around and said, oh shit, everything's moving away from us, it seems to be uniform as far as its distribution away from us. So it certainly seems like we're there. This is why now there's an insane belief that no matter where you are in the universe, it looks identical to what we see. Just think about that. Everything's moving away from us, but they've convinced you that if you flew to a faraway planet on some faraway sun and stood on that planet, you would also see everything moving away from you. They've never been there. They can't verify that, but it has to be that way because
what I don't understand though is if everything's moving away from us, wouldn't we expect to see some changes in the constellations over vast periods of time, like all of human history? And yet there has been no relative changes between the stars or anything in the night sky. So how can we?
I don't think they even know that. I don't even think they know things are moving away from us. But I think what they think they see is redshift, and so they just run with that. And this is one of those things that can't be questioned in their model because of the implications. If things aren't moving away from us at these crazy speeds that they say, and multiplying that speed by the further they are away from us, then their whole model falls apart.
So,
but even as a globe Earth believer, though, I had issues with this very sort of thing. I mean, I never could come to terms with it. And of course, we would never go so far as to say, well, maybe it's because we live in a geocentric reality with a flat Earth. I mean, that's so far beyond the pale of anything that we would consider. And yet, I mean, honestly, it was a problem for me as a youngster, believing in the ball and believing in infinite space. I could never wrap my brain around why we don't see sweeping permanent changes in the constellations. And anybody that believes in infinite space and the ball Earth has to at least admit that, you would think, because it's a problem. I mean, it is a big problem for their model.
It is. Why aren't the stars getting smaller? Why aren't they spreading out? And why aren't they telling them in astrophysics that yes, you can read Doppler as redshift, but many other phenomena produce that same result. Redshift can be created magnetically. It can be created inherently. There are, I believe, at least 11 known ways to create redshift.
Optically,
and Hubble was
like through a big lens in the sky.
Exactly. And Hubble was never himself convinced that Doppler was the correct way to read it. In fact, Doppler doesn't make any sense at all when you take it into the way they do it with particles and things like that. Anyway, their own model kills Doppler effect as working, and yet it is just taken right there to it is Doppler, and that's how it's changed. And that's one of my favorite things to look at is I at the house here, Bob's seen me do it. I can make redshift, blue shift magnetically. And that's simply by taking an object, a magnet, and tilting the poles. By tilting it from the inertial plane, you can get a redshift, blue shift. You can do it multiple different ways. Doppler.
They can't look at that, right? They can never look at that.
They're not taught. They're not on the radar at all. It's not even on their radar. It is redshift equals Doppler.
Right. Because if they did it any other way, what would happen is not just a little bit of science would have to be changed, but the entire Big Bang is gone. Big Bang is described as the a
Correct.
starting point of this expansion, right? So if you don't have
Mhm.
the expansion, then you don't have the Big Bang. You can't rewind the sky clock. Now you don't know the age of the universe. Now you don't know the age of the Earth. Now everything falls apart. And so
Very
this is
good.
why we're
Mhm.
very stuck in this avenue of, I describe it as when a pole vaulter, not a pole vaulter, when a tightrope walker walks across the rope between two buildings or whatever, they never look down. There's a point of that, right? If you look down is when you lose your balance and you could fall. So you just look straight ahead. That's what science does. They will never look down. They'll never look at their foundations. They will never re-examine things that they've already determined to be true. They just look straight forward. They keep marching, and they just say, we'll just keep going. We just keep going. And if you're somebody who's into that science and you want to write a paper, as long as your paper is within the framework and allows that thing to continue, then you can write papers and maybe you'll even get a discovery in that world and get promoted and get talked about. But the one thing you can't do is question the origins, the foundations, or anything. If you do that, then you are being a heretic and you'll be, asked to leave. This is why some things are just not questionable. You cannot question the age of the dinosaurs. You cannot question some of these scientific facts, the tectonic plates. You cannot question that. You cannot question gravity. Cannot be questioned, even though it doesn't appear to work anywhere in the universe to the point where you need to invent things like dark matter, dark energy, and then just, from there, I mean, it's such a cluster F. There's no way that some of these guys didn't realize along the way that they're so far off. And we even hear Michio Kaku say things like how far off they are, right? 10 to the 120th, the largest mismatch between science and experiment in the history of the world. So they do realize it. They do understand it. Then you got Michio Kaku coming out and saying that nobody in his line of business uses the so-called scientific method, which he says we fly by the seat of our pants. We make shit up. Okay, whatever. They hear that and they don't realize that that is the definition of pseudoscience. Pseudoscience is anything said to be scientific that doesn't follow the scientific method. So they're admitting to you that we use we use pseudoscience, that we don't go by testing and observations and repeatability. Yet they make you think that they do. They make you think that seeing exoplanets or these distant suns has gone through some sort of scientific method, and it hasn't, and it never will. Look at these distances they tell you. And again, those distances could be so far off, which is what the flat earth is trying to say, is those things are much closer, and they'll just never, they're never going to let you think that way. So yeah, you can go to the Edwin Hubble, and he's talking about, there's no misattribution here of the quote. What he's talking about is that, the way that he observed things, and this quote again, he says, such a condition would imply that we occupy a unique position in the universe, analogous in a sense to the ancient conception of a central earth. He says, this hypothesis cannot be disproved. Okay, so you should be able to just to disprove it. If we're not the center, just disprove it. Show some evidence that we're not. He says it cannot be disproved. And then the next line is, but it is unwelcomed and would be accepted only as a last resort in order to save the phenomenon. Therefore, we disregard this possibility. And we consider the alternative, that there's a distribution which thins out with distance. Then he goes through a couple different things here of it could be this, it could be space absorption, it could be this. And then he ends it with saying, both explanations seem plausible, but neither is permitted by the observations. So again, now he had some ideas, but says, but they don't match observations, therefore that can't be true. Then he says the apparent departures from uniformity in the world picture are fully compensated by the minimum corrections for redshifts. There's no margin left. He says the true distribution must either be uniform or increase outward, which would leave the observer in a unique position. So again, no matter what he tries, he keeps coming back to, yeah, but then again, we're in the center. And then he finishes it with, but the unwelcome supposition of a favored location must be avoided at all costs. That's the only line that you need to know, that they're observing something. They're saying, yep, this matches, that we are the center of the universe. However, it must be avoided at all costs. So anybody tells me, oh, science is perfect and everything's science. No, this is a human being who is telling you that there's a certain outcome of these experiments that must be avoided at all costs. Such a favored position, of course, he says, is intolerable. And therefore, to restore homogeneity and to escape the horror of a unique position, this is how science feels. This is how people who believe in evolution feel. This is how Simon Dan feels. These guys look at the idea of being a creation, the idea of being important, the idea of being God's creation. They look at it as a horror. It's to escape the horror of having a God, of having a creator. And therefore, they had to make something else up, which is the second term, which he says represents the effects of spatial curvature, which is the only thing they could ever come up with, is we must be on a balloon, put a bunch of dots on this balloon, start blowing it up, and all the dots move away from each other. And therefore, then what we do observe here could be possible. So they don't look at it as could be possible. They instead said, that's the truth. So they had two options, the one some guy made up in his head, or the one that seems to fit all the observations. They disregarded the one that fit the observations, went with the one that the guy made up in his head, and then called that the truth. And everything has been based off that for all time. Nobody tells us who's blowing up the balloon. Again, they say, oh, well, space is expanding. How? What is causing this expansion, this never-ending expansion? Everything has to have forces, and there's got to be forces if there's acceleration. What is the force? It's dark energy. It's something we don't know. We just made it up. It must have it. So everything that they give you is based off of a lie, which is based off of a lie, which is based off of a lie. And if you tell somebody, well, I don't think the universe is expanding, they'll just say, what are you talking about? The galaxies are moving away from us. And if you try and take them back, then they just scream like that guy did on Twitter, that I'm misattributing that quote. Oh, here's Jaron again, misattributing the same quote to fit his flat Earth. It's like, no, I'm not even talking about flat Earth. I didn't even say flat Earth in anything I just mentioned.
No.
What I'm mentioning is that there's a worldview that, and then if you look at it, who's all these people that follow science around like they're the greatest thing in the world? It's these atheists. And there's a reason, because science is meant to remove any possible chance that a God could have created this Earth, and to convince you that it's all accidental and that we came from nothing and that we're all stardust and 50% of our atoms came from other galaxies, and whatever they can do to, and what an open slate they have for lies, right? The entirety of space.
Keep in mind, though, that Hubble came up with the concept of other galaxies in 1929. So prior to that, they believed that the Milky Way galaxy was it. There was only stars in one galaxy. And it wasn't until Hubble was he was observing little spirals in the night sky that, you know, you could only see with really super expensive telescopes out on some mountain. That's when they came up with this concept of other galaxies that are allegedly moving, you know, expanding. But I mean, I don't know. I always thought that we were in a galactic universe for most of history, but no, that's not the case. Only in the 1900s, the 20th century, did they come up with this concept of other galaxies. And to me, that's really interesting.
Bob, what do you think of? Because I can't say that I've seen them in a telescope. I mean, I guess I've seen them online and on videos. But what do you think galaxies are? Because you've seen them in a telescope. So I mean.
Well, they appear to be like large plasma circuits, right? That are connected, like they're electrical nodal points that are connected by plasma. At least that's what they look like in the lab, right? And if you apply what you see in the lab to what you see in the sky, then you're essentially looking at kind of like a little plasma ball. And we've all seen those, right? Very similar type of thing, except, you know, they don't seem to be moving out in outer space, which is really kind of strange, because you would think that, and you would be able to there would at least be some changing to that. And there doesn't ever seem to be. And that's the really puzzling thing to me about that. Right. But as far as people that claim to follow science, I mean, I'm sitting here watching, you know, the complete manifestation of trolls that have come in today. We probably banned at least 100 of them. Because they're just coming and going, oh, you guys are so dumb. You know, you're just idiots. It's like, man, is that the best you have? You guys are pathetic.
It is the best. It's the best thing.
It is the best they have, because they don't know anything about science. They don't know how it's supposed to be conducted. They don't know how to question it. Most of these clowns don't even understand the inverse square law or the inverse size relationship. And
what's sad about it to me, though, is, I mean, I get it, though. I get it. I understand how ridiculous this whole thing seems. I mean, I was sitting on the other end of this, and I remember when I first heard about flat Earth, I thought it was ridiculous. Why would anybody waste their time on it? There must be some real kooks in there, and I didn't look at it. But then later on, you know, I was compelled to look into it, and I really to try to debunk the whole flat Earth thing. And you simply can't, and it's not that crazy. There are actually some well thought out, cogent explanations for things, and it is fairly well fleshed out. I mean, there's a lot of compelling data and experimental evidence to support, you know, our position, but. Just to the average person who's never looked into it and hears, oh, there's some flat earthers doing a live stream, I get it. I mean, I understand how stupid it seems, but
how pathetic is your life that you have to come and troll it? I mean, seriously, how pathetic is your life? That. I mean, you know, if I think something's dumb, I just ignore it. You know, I don't sit there and go, I mean, you wouldn't believe it. And honestly, this has been a trend that has been going on for the past week or two. And I don't know if this is organized by the powers that be or Simon Dan or what, but I have noticed a sharp increase in the amount of trolls, and the only thing they ever have to say is, "You guys are stupid, don't breed," all this stuff. It's like, wow, what intelligent, additions to the conversation you guys make, right? And they're so dumb. They don't
It
even.
was me. It
Talking.
I
was
don't have any valid.
It was you,
no
Hero?
valid.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Zero, why not?
Hello, everyone. Sorry for
Hero.
my delay. I'm still finish the Switzerland meeting, so we have still people of those of the meeting. So that is why I'm a little bit delayed. Sorry for interrupt.
Oh, no problem. How did it go?
Well, super great. 50 people, 3 days, all together in one big house, sharing information, experience, food, life in general. And it was great. It's the first time that I organized something like that. It's not easy to take care about all the food and plan, to keep 50 adult flat earthers going crazy, because in the good sense, of course, because we celebrate freedom, we celebrate to not use mask and play music and react as a regular guys that not under any special government control. So it was a little stress for time to time, but in general it was great, really.
Awesome. That's very cool, Hero. Glad to hear it. All right. So, go ahead,
It's
Jern.
sad. No, it's just laughing just because you're right. I mean, it's all they have, and it made me realize too that, like, people say, "Oh, Jaron, why don't you debate this?" I said, "You know what? I'll debate any flat earther and destroy them, because the easiest position to take in the world is the one where you can sit there and you've got science on your side. You can just say, listen to anything anybody says, and you can go, but dude, read a physics book. Don't you know Hubble discovered that the Earth is expanding? Go back and look at the books. Go look at this physics book." And everybody in the world takes science to be the end all be all. So how hard is that to do? It's the easiest position ever to take. It's like being a parrot, where you just have to not think at all. There's no thinking involved in memorization. It's just, I can memorize this. I'll read it back a few times over and over again. We know parrots can come up with words, or they can learn words, or are parrots intelligent? Are they really, really smart and really deep? No, they're not. And yet this is what we get. So the people that come in here yelling, "Don't breed, drink bleach, you're so dumb, the Earth's a sphere, we've always known it," these are the parrots to me. They have no intelligence whatsoever. It takes zero work to come and repeat what you've already heard, and you have no clue what you're talking about. And it just makes you feel good to be dumb. So congratulations.
And they also have a good card at their favor, which is the progress card, in terms of, for example, you mentioned before the dark energy or dark matter, because they cannot explain a lot of things in the expanding balloon inflate model. And they play the card of progress, in terms of, okay, well, it's because science in the few years we're going to finally discover. You just need to wait, and that is also something completely, I don't say unfair, but they in terms of the cosmology, I don't think it you can apply, like, for example, in 3 years we're gonna have I don't know, pen drives of 2 terabytes. Okay, you can use that analogy in that case, because you already have the other ones. But in terms of cosmology, it's a little difficult to just wait until science get the sufficient progress and technology to discover the dark energy or something like that, in that sense.
Yeah. So the great thing is that when you talk about the expansion of the universe and all these things that are so true, go look into them and have a good laugh at some of these numbers they give, as if these things are provable. They call them science. I mean, I'm looking here at the inflation of the universe, and due to the inflation theory, which is the Big Bang theory, it says 10 to the 32 of a second after the Big Bang. Okay, so that's put a 1 0 and then put a and then take that decimal point back 32 spaces to your left, so 0.00000, right? Like they know that. That length of a second after the Big Bang, the universe suddenly expanded. Okay, this is just great, telling stories about 14 billion years ago. And its volume increased by a factor of at least 10 to the 78. Now, hold on, if you don't know what 10 to the 56 is, the amount of grains of sand on the entire Earth. But this is going to increase by a factor of 10 to 78 in an instant. It says an expansion of a distance by a factor of at least 10 to the 26 in all the 3 dimensions. So now it's moving 10 to the 26 in every dimension. Wait till you hear how much that is. That's the equivalent of an object expanding from 1 nanometer, which is about half the width of a molecule of DNA, to a length of approximately 10.6 light years, or 62 trillion miles. So now they don't have any evidence of this. This is just what it must have been. And so now picture the universe is the size of a peach, they say, or something like that, right? And boom, it expands, and in 0.0000001 second, it expanded to the size of whatever I just said, some 62 trillion miles in that one little second. And it kept going from there, and it's actually increasing. And then you try and say, well, that's weird. How could space be increasing faster than the speed of light? And of course, they have an answer for that, right? That, well, actually, space can do whatever it wants, but it's not the items themselves that are traveling faster than the speed of light. It's that space is expanding and carrying with it those items faster than the speed of light, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, I think the lies based on lies based on lies and the trolling and things like this is going to lead to a nice transition, because we are going to be going over to Rockfin and discussing Dutch sense in the video, and is he becoming a flat earther, and looking at the tides. But before we did that, I wanted to address somebody in the YouTube chat, if that was okay, and actually answer a question in there that is probably a troll question, or may not be one. But this is from Enlightened Patriot, and I said I would address it. He said, after promoting Globebusters on a Globe Earther channel, Frankie and Benji Mouse replied, they got destroyed by Professor Dave and never recovered from that. They deleted almost everything on their channel and then closed their comment section and are just making money. I doubt the truth in that. Any comment to anyone for ammo? Okay, can I address it? And then other people can. Okay, we did not get destroyed by Professor Dave in any way, shape, or form. That's actually quite the joke. You have to laugh at that. Professor Dave is when people search Globebusters, where the good people at Google send everyone. And basically, if you search for, you don't have an account, you're not subscribed, you search for Globebusters, that's what will come up, is all of these stupid Professor Daves, where they call us idiots, they call us stupid, and they troll us. We removed it had nothing to do with us removing our videos, but in another roundabout way, it did. They are trying to get rid of the Globebusters channel on that, and we are on our final content warning on the Globebusters channel, where they will take the channel down entirely. So we are very careful what is up there right now. So yes, all of the videos are removed. You can see them on Odyssey, and we are loading them right now, one a day, onto Rockfin, and are getting the archive sections back up. We're very proud of them, and no, we did not delete any of the work.
And as far as Professor Dave destroying us, hardly. He had absolutely nothing. That was such a joke. And in fact, we're going to go back into it. I'm going to do a show as a response, but of course you'll never see that pop up and be recommended by YouTube. But every argument he made was a complete straw man, and we can utterly destroy it in 2 seconds. It's not going to be hard. Not only that, but shortly after he came out with those videos about what flat earthers do and what flat earthers believe, Don't Sphere the Truth did I think it was like a 7-hour response in response to the 10 questions, right? Don't Sphere the Truth did like a 7-hour composite that addressed every single one of those things that he brought up in detail, right? But did anybody ever see it? Of course not. Why? Because YouTube doesn't promote it, so nobody knows about this. But the reality is Professor Dave is an idiot. He is a complete idiot, and he is certainly not any scientist that practices science in any known way that we know of. So, if you guys want to idolize people like him, feel free. But look at yourselves. Look at yourselves. You come over here, you're acting like you're trolls. You're trolling. If you think it's dumb, then just go away and think, well, just let the poor pathetic flat earthers have their time. But the reality is the reason you're here, and the reason that everybody is in such an uproar about flat earth, is because it is catching on by the millions across the world. And it has put the powers that be in a panic state. And just because you guys are too stupid to see the obvious of NASA fakery, the obvious that there is no curvature, the obvious that there is no detectable motion, the obvious about the lies and how we can't possibly see as far as they tell us that we do in space or anything like that. Well, it's not our fault. You're morons, but you are. Okay. So, we laugh at people like you. We really do. You think that we're the pathetic ones here, and yet you've got it completely backwards. You guys have no idea how brainwashed you are. And someday, if you ever figure that out, you're going to go, oh my God, how did I ever believe any of it? But for now, you just keep, putting out your crap and go about your trolling, and we'll just keep deleting you because, it doesn't matter. I've got an army of moderators, and, most of your comments don't even get through because you're already hidden before anybody sees them. So, it's pointless for you to be here. It's pointless for you to troll in the comments section because all of those are pre-approved. And it's like, I don't put up with people like you. You're idiots and you have no idea what you're saying. So, deal with it.
And that answers the other question on us sometimes closing the comment section, because we're people and we get sick of the trolls that come in and not make a comment, but make a comment to every single reply to every single comment in the chat saying, you're an idiot, you're retarded, drink bleach. We've seen them all, but you have that where it's like, fuck you guys, excuse my language.
Because they actually
people.
They copy paste the same three sentences.
The same three sentences, the same words over and over and over again. And sometimes we look at it and say, oh, I'm sick of deleting these comments for today. We close it. So we do sometimes close the things, and that's why. It's because we're people and we have a life. The other comment about we're just here to make money. Let's do your research again. I'll use us just as a because I can. I'm not talking about anybody else. I'm talking about me and my husband. If you follow us, you'll see that we left Denver, and those that follow us personally, you'll see that we left a nice house in Denver that we bought 20 years ago, and are living much more modestly in a place that costs about a third of the money out in South Carolina to make things work. We do this graciously because flat earth reality and truth is more important to us than material things because of what it's taught us, and we hope to share it. Do we still want to be able to eat? Yes, and it's getting our savings. We're pretty much deleted. And so as far as Rockfin and subscribing and that, we do ask people to support us by subscribing to Rockfin because I feel it's a fabulous platform that you can subscribe to one person. You can get a lot of information about COVID. You can get a lot of information about everything that you cannot get on YouTube. And
Can we say something real quick, just because I don't know if I want to. Let me just tell you this. So Globebusters started, I want to say 2015. It might have been 2016. But from the beginning, 15. Okay, so from the beginning of Globebusters, 2015, until the end of 2020, so say 8 months ago or so, Bob put in his pocket less than $2,000. Okay, that is 5 years, and he made less than $2,000. So from Globebusters, right? Anybody who says we're making money, it's what a shame to think how wrong you could be. Whereas these guys that go around, I guarantee you, there's not a month that Simon Dan hasn't made double $2,000. Okay, just repeating the mainstream, making fun of people, saying things that the world already supposedly believes. Big deal. What are you contributing to humanity? Nothing. And yet you guys want to say Bob's making money. It's a joke.
Yeah. No, we are. Not only that, hang on a second, Cami. And in addition to that, that $2,000 that I did make off of that went right back into flat Earth. Why?
Right.
Because
of course.
we had experiments that I was constantly financing. I'm constantly donating to other people for other causes, things like that. Whatever came in went back out. I have tens of thousands of my own money going out into research. When our balloon got whatever happened to it, when it disappeared, the first balloon, it wasn't the donor's fault. It wasn't our fault, but Chris and I put the money in, our own money in, another $2,000 right there just to make it right. And fortunately, that was a spectacular success. But no, if you think we're making money on this, you picked the wrong day to stop smoking crack, because YouTube doesn't pay anything.
Here's the real
Right.
truth, that we're providing for the last 5 years 3 hours of content that people stay watching most of. You know, if you look at any other channels and they have whatever it's called, view time or viewer attention time, whatever, you know, ours is extremely high versus other channels. And we're providing actual, not custom content, unique content, right? Whereas anything that we show you, we're never just showing you some video and just sitting back and just like, okay, let's just show this. No, we're commenting and critiquing on it, meaning every single thing that we put out is passes the sniff test of fair use. And yet we never get monetized on any of the shows. It's always, soon as we put one thing from National Geographic, one little clip of it, of Brian Cox, one little clip of anything like that, then they take all the monetization and they send it to somebody else. And then anything that we, you know, most of our shows come up and they're not advertiser friendly. And then recently we get removed from monetization when they said we are, what is it, not using original content, when it is, that is our content. They can just
the worst is when they tie it up in appeals too. So like if you have a copyright claim that you know that you appeal, even if you ultimately win it, it still goes 2 to 3 weeks, maybe sometimes a month without any advertising. And by the time that they allow you to advertise on it, you're not getting any views on that video anyways.
Or for our intro song, we actually paid. Not much. I forgot what we paid for it, $100 or something. Maybe it was 50. But we paid for the rights to use that song. We got Amber to do the lyrics. She got her husband to do the rap. I put the video together. A lot of work goes into that. And every single video that we do, we get claimed copyright claim by Bobby Ray something for his Globebusters song, or Ghostbusters song, even though it's not even close to this version. And even if we question it or challenge it, we don't get anything. And there's nobody to talk to. There's no way to get around that. It's just, sorry.
They just take your money and run.
Yep.
They do.
So anybody who tells us making money is sorely confused.
Crazy. And speaking of not making any money, but I just want to say hat tip to Renee Redding. Thank you so much for the super chat, the $100 super chat. That is absolutely incredible. We don't get a lot of those on YouTube, but when we do, they're very much appreciated. And there's also, you know, a few people I want to give a shout out to on Rockfin, as far as the tips that have been coming in. And so if I could just take a minute to do that really quick, I would do so. And so, whoops, let me go over to tips on this thing. And okay, so I want to give a shout out to Jeff Russ, who says, I'm hoping someone is writing a book and or making a video series on the preponderance of evidence for the flat earth. Yeah, me too, Jeff. I mean, I've been talking about that and you know, putting out content for the preponderance evidence, but I don't know of anybody that's actually, well, actually there are people that are writing it down. So I can't say that. I know John's also making a book. And so, yeah, there are people that are writing, and there's actually quite a few fairly prolific writers out there that are writing some really great flat earth material. So there you have that. Steve Matthews, thank you so much for the tip. Energy Bear, thank you so much for your tip. Anyword says, what can you reckon a meteor show really is? Well, Anyword, I think a meteor shower is, you know, basically some sort of, you know, it could be some sort of material that is causing discharges, you know, between highly charged points of potential, you know, either up in the firmament or, you know, because we have a lot of strange phenomenon that goes on up there, right? We get things that discharge up in the form of elves and sprites, and then we get lightning strikes that discharge down. We never see meteors ever seem to go straight up, right? They only come down to the earth. And then what they tell us are actually meteors. You know, you might see a crater, but you don't really see any evidence of that, you know, object that's left there. Or if it is, it's very, very far and few between. So,
you know what I think they are?
What do you think they are?
Okay, so we know that the gases like hydrogen and helium find their way up above the troposphere, up in who knows how high up they go. I don't know. But okay, so at some point you have condensation of those gases and eventually maybe precipitation. So if you've got some form of a crystalline hydrogen helium substance that's up there at very high altitudes, just precipitating back down. I think that very well could be the case, because that would also account for the fact that we don't often find any material substance left over, because it would just simply evaporate back into gas when it makes its way down here. That's what I think they are. I think it's precipitation of solidified or crystalline hydrogen and helium type substance.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, the thing is you have to really think outside the box here, right? And even if we get it wrong, at least we are speculating and we're thinking of the possibilities. And this is something that is simply not allowed in mainstream science anymore. You cannot ever go outside of the mainstream, dogma, doctrine in this religion, or you are chastised. And frankly, guys, Einstein was an idiot. He was a complete idiot, and none of his theories ever held, especially about the luminiferous ether, and relativity is a joke. And the fact that they always try and promote it all the time as being absolute proof that relativity works perfectly is just should be a big tip to people that it's BS, and it truly is BS. I mean, the benditure of space and time, get real. Anyway, so let me continue down. All right, so Shekel Grabberberg, I love that name. Says hi from Zoguk. Okay, wherever that is. Cold Brews said troll repellent. Thank you so much for that. Earth First Space Later sent a tip. Thank you much for that. Pat Deemers sent a tip. Thank you much for that. Gregory May says Bob's audio is much lower than Jaren's and the rest. Hopefully I've got that fixed now, Greg. Amos sent a tip. Thank you so much for that. Richard Teffertillers sent me a tip, which is great. Pat Deemers, another one. Robert Zafaris, who's always been great. Robert, you are a legend. Thank you so much. Chris McGee sent us a tip. Richard Tetterfield said another tip. Wow, thank you for that, Richard. Cold Brews sent us a tip. Much respect, he says. Thank you much for that, Cold Brews. We do appreciate that. And Haska Sun sent us a tip. So, wow. Thanks for the tips, guys. That's awesome. But honestly, and there are times when, we actually do decent on tips. Thank God for Rockfin, because at least Rockfin, they are good to their creators, and they share that revenue much more than what YouTube does. They give us a open platform for free speech, and they don't hog all the money, and they just do a really nice job.
People can tip anytime too, which is awesome. So it doesn't matter. They have to be watching this show live. If tomorrow they're watching it, they can still tip, which doesn't work on YouTube.
Yep, absolutely. So there you have it.
And what I like most about it is you're not only supporting the channel you like, but you're supporting free speech. And I want you to look at, we went into Flat Earth a little bit older, and we had some assets built up that we flushed through. A lot of people started it early, so it's not just us. By supporting Rockfin, you support the creators, and that's something YouTube has never ever done. The creators, I think they deserve it. We put a lot of work into it. I feel fair about asking for that type of support, to support a platform and do it and share it amongst everybody. And again, look for who you like the best and subscribe under them, and then go and watch us free on Globebusters. But if we don't start supporting people, they will go away. And that is what they're aiming for. And that is how they're trying to say it's just to make money, and that it's part of the plan. Yeah, they're making it that misinformation isn't there, so they build you over there, and then they won't let you say what you want to while you're there, and they demonetize everything you do. And at some point, again, unless you have a huge reserve, you can't be there and spread the news. I know people want truth to be free. It money-wise, it wasn't free to us. We put everything we have into it. Because the truth should be open, it shouldn't be hidden. We believe that, but it takes something to, I mean, in magnets alone, we won't talk about the magnet bill here. But again, I had a retirement fund and things like that. So, things work out. But again, look for who you like, subscribe, and do support. It's not, supporting each other is not they've made that little cliche. They say the truth has to be free, and then they create like their free platform that they won't let you speak truth on. Running a platform costs money.
Pretty crazy. All right.
So thank you everybody that went over there, and we really, really appreciate it. All of the creators do over there, and it grows every day. There's more and more.
Yep. And we are way over on our deal here today. You know what? I may just go ahead and run both shows on YouTube and on Rockfin today, just because we're so far over, and I've only got, you know, the last thing that I want to talk about, and nothing that I really can't not talk about unless you guys have anything that would be Rockfin friendly only. Do you have anything like that?
Nothing to think of, Summit.
Okay.
I was looking at
No.
the latest NASA news. There was something that was kind of interesting. It says Russia's space program just threw a NASA astronaut under the bus. It looks like this is a video, but I'll send you the link over. It might be interesting to check out. I haven't watched it as of yet, but I'll put a link in the Skype chat here.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. So let's go over and gosh, well, first of all, Karen B. Now, guys, what in the hell is this? Karen B. dropped this in the Globebusters Skype group today, and it's like, what? I'm looking at this going, you got to be kidding me. I don't even know what this is, right? Air and spacecraft hardware, right? And they have things like Jewish space laser activation panels, and customizable Jewish space laser panels, right? Chemtrails activation panels. Houston, we have options. This one says your panel, any option, whatever you want to do, or vaccine microchip master control panel. It's like, what? What is this? I mean, that's
playing
insane.
around. Oh.
Yeah, this came up on Facebook, right? So yeah, Facebook, yeah, they're fine promoting stuff like this. I don't even know what to say about that. That's just crazy. But I thought I'd mention it. All right, so let's go ahead. Actually, let me go ahead and run the before I do the Plateauberfest. What I'm going to do, guys, is take a side jaunt here for a minute. And many of you are maybe familiar with Mitchell from Australia. And Mitchell is an extremely good flat earther. He's super smart. He has destroyed so many Globers that it's beyond belief. And he's just a really nice guy in general. He used to do, I think, podcasts with Paul on the Plane for a while. But things are, you know, very tough in Australia, especially with the mandatory things that they're coming down on. So he's trying to, you know, start a new series and get support for it. Obviously, he's willing to do the work for it, but he wanted us to promo his new upcoming series, Flat Earth School, at which point it should be starting, I believe, in like the next week or something like that. But let me go ahead and run the promo for this. And if you guys haven't subscribed to Mitchell from Australia, mods, if you want to grab, and let me, let me grab a link for you. Hang on a second. Copy, and let me paste this in your chat. All right. So let me go ahead and play this for you. And if you go over and sign up for that, I'm sure you'll really like him. He's very personable, very smart, and is really into doing all kinds of experiments for Flat Earth. So let's go ahead and play his promo. Here we go, Mitchell.
Keep taking me keep taking me higher, higher. 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 Got both feet off the ground, head up in the clouds, head up in the clouds. Can't tell where to set it now. I ain't coming down, I ain't coming down, down. Keep taking me higher, higher. 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 Got both feet off the ground, head up in the clouds, head up in the clouds. Can't tell where to set it now, but I ain't coming down, I ain't coming
right. There we go. And that's Mitchell from Australia. And he's going to be coming up. And I know probably in the second or third week, I will be making an appearance on his show because he's very much interested in kind of narrowing down the electrostatic downward vector theory of gravity that we have that is infinitely better than the ridiculous model that the mainstream gets us. And it goes even further where the relative density disequilibrium leaves off, which, you know, unfortunately, that doesn't quite cut it. But so if you're interested in that, I will be on probably the second or the third week, and we'll be going into that in detail. I might even get Austin to join me on that. And Zach as well. That would be really good because I think the three of us have talked about that the most in this community. And it's very plausible. And you know what's crazy is even Ken Wheeler's on board with it, which is really cool. So gotta love it. So let's go ahead and do our other commercial for Karen B. Again, this is for Flattoberfest coming up in October. And this is going to be October 23rd and 24th in downtown Spartanburg, South Carolina. And this is going to be a fantastic event. It's going to be tons of fun. The venue has skee ball and bowling alleys and all kinds of cool stuff. So it's going to be one of the funner venues, I think, that we've been at. And I know that ticket sales have been going really, really well. So you may want to, you know, if you're going to get into it, you may want to, get in right away. So you can get a hotel room and everything reserved because the tickets are selling very, very well, especially for being outside of this for, by 2 months yet. So let's go ahead and run this promo and then we will continue the show. Here we go.
Flattoberfest 2021 is almost here, and it's happening in historic downtown Spartanburg, South Carolina. This is a great opportunity to meet other flat earthers, connect in real life with online friends, and interact face-to-face without restriction, just as the creator intended. This year we have 2 full days of events planned for you of presentations and live music. Featuring Marty Leeds of MartyLeeds33.com, Bob Nodell of Globebusters, Jason Lindgren of Secrets of Saturn and Crow777radio.com, and ODD TV will be performing live. Mike Williams from the Sage of Quay Radio Hour at sageofquay.com. Flat Earth Intel with Corey Kell. And some of your other favorite content providers will be there. More to be announced soon. Go to flatearthfestivals.com/Flattoberfest 2021 for information, updates, and tickets. Are you single? Are you a flat earther? Are you going to Flattoberfest 2021? Do you want to meet other flat earth singles? Then you should participate in the Secret Mingle for Single Flat Earthers, a little something I'm putting together for FE singles who are going to Flattoberfest 2021. This is the perfect opportunity for you to meet like minds face to face in a friendly environment with no pressure. If you're going to Flattoberfest 2021, there's no extra cost. Go to flatearthfestivals.com/secret mingle for details. I hope to see you there. Cheers!
All right, there we go. And thank you for that, Karen B. And again, that's going to be a lot of fun. I can hardly wait 2 months. Well, not quite 2 months for that. And it will be here. So that'll be really cool. All right. Let's see. So let's go ahead and get on to the thing that I wanted to talk about today. And this guy, who is frankly a condescending ass, the words can't even describe this guy, but he thinks that he's just got it all over us flat earthers, with this information that he has come out with. And the fact is he really has nothing. Okay. So I'm going to play his video, which is only 2 minutes and 44 seconds. But in this video, he's going to claim that the 1960 earthquake that took place, oh geez, where the heck was it?
Chile.
Chile, yeah, in Chile, right? He's going to basically then show a globe Earth type of projection map, right? And say, oh well, gee, how could it reach California at the same time that it's reaching New Zealand, right? And of course, the problem with this, guys, is, and I'll tell you this right now, is that there is no corroborating evidence for that. But ironically, there is a new piece of evidence that does corroborate earthquakes and flat Earth map that, believe it or not, another gentleman who you may be familiar with has come up with. But so let's go ahead and play this video, and try not to get sick and throw up on your computer monitors, because this guy is really condescending, but whatever. Let's go ahead and hear him out.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Mission Control. Something ugly happened back in 1960. In fact, it was so ugly that it sent shockwaves almost across the whole world. I am, of course, talking about the earthquake that struck the southern coast of Chile, which was the most powerful earthquake ever recorded. So, what has that got to do with flat Earth?
Does this guy seem like a robot to you, the way he talks?
I was thinking the same thing. I was even to make the joke, but I don't want to, be respectful or something like that. So I'm keep quiet. But yeah, he's a little sad to be a flat Earth destroyer. He's not happy to destroy
Gamma.
Yeah, Gamma. Pretty sad indeed. All right, sorry. Let's continue on.
Earth belief. Well, it seems like they have some serious explaining to do. Let's have a look.
Well, let's have a look. Show us what you got.
The earthquake's epicenter was about 570 kilometers south of Santiago and caused thousands of lives to be lost and billions of dollars in damage. Apart from the ground shaking, the earthquake generated tsunamis that spread across the Pacific Ocean. Once generated, tsunamis radiate outward in all directions from their source. They pretty much become concentric circles, like we see when we throw a stone into a pond. Now, here's an image that shows how this tsunami propagated through the Pacific Ocean and struck other countries. The numbers are given in hours, so we can read off of this that 12 hours after the quake, New Zealand was struck by the tsunami. That is also about the same time as the California Peninsula was struck. Now, I'm not a physics major, but doesn't it strike you as odd that the waves somehow reached New Zealand and California at the same time, if the Earth is supposed to look like this?
Yeah, it would strike me as weird if there was actually any evidence for it besides your stupid map. But so far we haven't seen any evidence for that besides your stupid map, which is not evidence at all. But we'll give you some evidence. How does that go? Let's continue.
There seems to be another problem too with direction of impact, because Australia was struck at the southeast coast, but on this map, the waves are coming in from the north. This is not looking good for the flat earthers. But then again, nothing ever has. That is not the case for the globe, though. It never fails. I believe this was another safe landing for the globe team, so stick around for the next mission.
Oh, aye, Captain.
Ooh, no,
God.
That guy. I
Somebody...
want to take a coffee and trying to explain how life is, without YouTube
Right.
and this type of video.
Somebody get that guy a preparation H.
Now I got to bring up
Difficult of
picture
use.
how he could say that it's concentric circles and then it hit the southeast side of Australia. I got to check into that. That sounds funny to me.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. So, now I looked up, I'm trying to find feverishly, the specific times and dates on when it actually did hit. And it's, extremely elusive. Like, for example, it says this map shows the travel time of the 1960 Chilean tsunami across the Pacific. It took 12 hours for the waves to reach New Zealand, right? The tsunami struck New Zealand coastline without warning late evening in the early hours on the between the 23rd and 24th May. It's like, wow, that's that's very vague. And obviously it says nothing about California. So I actually tried to do a search for that. How long did the waves take for the 1960 Chilean tsunami to strike the coast of California? Well, unfortunately, I find nothing in there conclusive, other than the time that it went off down there. And it talks about it reaching, New Zealand at a specific time. But again, I haven't seen anything that validates anything about California, right? So I'm confused. I don't know, other than his map, what evidence we have that proves anything about what he is saying. So when we dug into it and we looked a little bit further, we found, well, actually, David found this. This is pretty cool. And this is from Dutch Sense. And, Dutch Sense is not a flat earther, at least maybe he is now. But he's talking about earthquakes and tsunamis that are entirely possible. And he's wondering why they're giving earthquake warnings for places that are not necessarily in the path, would be in the path of a tsunami if you are on a globe. So let's hear what Dutch Sense has to say. Let me make sure I got this in the right place.
Off the globe so you can see them easily. So we're still getting them. And they're going now all the way over to Europe and all the way back over to South America. 3/4 of the planet having deep earthquakes down below a portion of the plate, followed by this kind of activity. 7s all over the plate. 8s last week. Big increase. I hadn't had to check for tsunamis in months for the whole planet. And then all of a sudden in the past 2 weeks, we're checking over and over again. And we have multiple warnings that have been issued in the past 2 weeks. Alaska and Philippines. This one, threat statement, gotta keep watch. Next few hours for the Caribbean, all the way up here. Check it out. Another thing to think about. Why would the Caribbean be warned up here around the outside edge of South America from a quake all the way down here? Why? Why? Something's up. That's weird. And to get a buoy in event mode out there after the quake, how could this down here be connected to the Caribbean? Or to the Gulf of Mexico? How? These are questions I don't have an answer for. What if the flat earthers are right? What if this whole thing's twisted around? This comes around and bends around up to here and they connected. And so an earthquake down here will affect up here because really down here is up here. They're even with each other or something. And it's all BS and the globe is BS. I mean, it could be. At this point.
Yeah. What do you guys think about that? That's crazy. That's Dutch Sense. Like I said, is not a flat earther. But he raises a very valid point in that, you change the projection and all of a sudden that would be in the line of sight as far as the tsunami waves being able to hit up that far. So all I can say is, we don't have anything conclusive yet, but I do want to, thank Mr. Mission Control, who needs some preparation H, for putting us onto this, because this could actually be some of the best flat earth proof ever, especially if we're going to be seeing a lot of tsunamis. And according to suspicious observers, that's going to be happening. So this is something to keep an eye on, guys, and watch. And if anybody can find this information, any more information about this quake that isn't so vague about specific times that the tsunami waves actually arrive at certain coastlines, that would be great. But from what I can see, it's very vague and non-specific. And usually when that happens, guys, it's because they don't want you to see something, right? So they keep it super vague. Any comments on this?
Well, I know that they changed around the entire notification system based on this earthquake as well. So the fact that now if there's a tsunami, people get warned by certain buoys they put at certain locations. That was all based on this one earthquake. So, I mean, it tells you even that the notifications, nobody got notifications when they were supposed to. I tried looking into this a while back and saw so many problems with it. Like you said, the direction, this guy talking about the concentric circles. I've never heard anybody claim that it came from the south of Australia, which makes no sense. I'm still trying to, then to Google that the Google Earth that you do in your browser doesn't let you draw circles. So I'm still trying to work on this.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. And Cammie, were you able to find anything that substantiated anything?
Yeah.
Or okay, do you want to?
I do. Let me see if I can figure out how to share screen. And
Okay.
let's see. I think we're doing it to a window. I'm hoping to do this and to start sharing. So tell me if you have the San Diego Union Tribune up.
I do, and you are presenting.
Okay, and I am presenting. What you have here is you have the San Diego Union Tribune from May 24th. And what's interesting about this is you'll see it's all in the news. Japan Hilo tidal wave toll soaring. LA port is closed. Scores killed. When going into the stories, things are interesting as far as the timeline. Like, for instance, the San Diego Piers lost boats damage. You're going to see that they're going to give it vague, but they actually have a lot of things. So they say in this story that the waves started in the early mornings or whatever, but it was with the tides. In other words, there was no destruction until the tides, until with the tide. The surging walls of water began buffering the waterfront in the early morning hours and increased in intensity as the tide rose early in the day. You're going to hit this time and time again. This was the same thing I hit in San Francisco and in other areas. When I went to, let's go over to here. This is Hawaii, and they'll actually give some different times on it. The Hawaiian Civil Defense says that the sirens.
Are you showing something else, or are you still on the same San Diego?
No, I'm showing something else. Did it not go over with you?
It did not change. We're still seeing the San Diego Union Tribune.
Ooh, okay, then I'm going to stop sharing and start sharing again.
Yeah, you have to share the entire monitor.
I thought I was doing that, but I'm a rookie.
Yep. Rookies.
Rookies.
Like we have a lot of room to talk, right, Jaron?
My shows are perfect, Bob. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. That's
I
hilarious.
apologize because on my things I cannot see how to even do because it says Windows. So this is going to happen more than once. But this I am reading from the Hawaii Civil Defense Agency.
Yep, we see it.
Okay. And they're going to give a timeline on it. The siren in Hilo was first sounded at 8:35. There are differing accounts of how many times the siren sounded and for how long. Note that the warning siren sounded for a 20-minute period for more than 4 hours prior to the impact of the wave. While all three of the logs indicate that the first siren sounded at 8:35, it is only the Civil Defense Agency that logged it. They're going to give a timeline. And it's going to say it's not until 10:23 p.m. that the official notice was received. At 12:07, they reported that they noticed the water began to rise beneath their vantage point on the Bridge West. The water crested at 12:13 at a trough, so you have it cresting at 3 feet. And this is, then it's going to tell you that after that, at 1:05 a.m., and that's where I want to see the tidal information, which I'm having a really hard time. When I go to NOAA and look up the tidal data sheets, the search keeps on freezing on it. They have something that does this, and right now it's not working. I could show you that too on the tides and total datum. I don't know if you see this
yep, we see
at the top. Yep. But I really tried to match it up, and they're not letting me do it. What happened is the actual, at 1:05, the tower got wiped out. The tsunami hit, but it wasn't until, in other words, you have these waves hitting, but it seems like the destruction does not come with. And I'm going to stop sharing and share something else.
Okay.
Ooh. It says that I'm not sharing right now. It says share screen. So let's see what'll happen. Okay. I want
You are
to.
definitely sharing.
Do you have ocean currents on your screen right now?
As far as a tab?
No, an actual. Are you looking at ocean currents?
Nope.
Okay, stop sharing it.
We're seeing the warning systems that white. Okay, now you stopped your screen share.
No,
Sorry,
I'm going to
guys.
start it again. It's
now
okay.
we see
I'm
it.
really sorry. What I'm going to show you, and something that I noticed that they're not taking into account on these, and that could answer some of your questions, are the ocean currents, because they're talking about waves and they're talking about concentric circles. But anybody that knows wave theory knows that waves interfere with other waves and currents when they produce. So let's look at this and say that the earthquake hit down here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the timelines on it, they want to know how you have an unbroken current that runs here and runs down to what? The southeastern corner where it was hit the hardest, right here. So if you follow the current line, you'll see that right here on the coast, that was a heavy hit. Now you'll notice that when you have to go up to the Americas, you cross something called the equatorial currents, which has got a counter current running in the wrong direction. A very strong current running this way. So if you look at the circle here, when anything that crosses over this has to cross this barrier and breathe through it and then get over here into San Diego. You'll notice on your time things, they weren't really hitting San Diego, but that could be like, again, why these waves hit and then started following the breath of the tides. No damage were done. Looking at the different pictures and putting the tides into play on it, it seems to answer a lot of the questions, like if you had an Antarctica or something down here, how it would wash right into this area here. Here, your counter crosses over here if you watch it. So if you look at your natural currents, they're going to come up here and they're going to feed right to the Caribbean in the places that they have. So to me, they're taking tides and currents out of an equation for tidal waves and tsunami and not addressing them. I have many more pages that I could close and do this and just give data sets. But what I am reading in the local newspapers is that there's a start of like little waves and that. So when you're talking about the exact tides, the destructive tides seem to run with the high tide of the area more. And I've not done enough to have this 100%. I am working on it, but it's just a thought hypothesis. But it does seem to, by reading what I have in multiple articles and that it was not like a wave came and hit, like, again, a tsunami, the way that you feel it's going to hit, that there's like these little things of waves, and that when the high tide came in, a higher wave came, which to me makes me think of the earth breath and things carrying it along the system of the earth. And that's going to have an impact on the speed it travels if it has to cross over, if it ranges it. And nobody is pointing that out when they're doing their little models. So I don't know if you need more from me. I have other articles that point to the same thing in the timeline. So where I have the exact time frames on the destruction and where the initial waves come in are inconsistent and seem to follow tides more than they follow the tsunami timeline.
All right.
That's what I've got so far. And again, I've only researched this for a couple of hours, so I would not call this a heavily researched, but just a few things I've looked at.
Yeah, we've already
put up a lot of possibilities. Yeah.
Yeah, we've definitely poked some holes in it already. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over again.
Do you have the Wikipedia up for that tsunami or no? Or for that, you don't have that?
The Wikipedia? I could pull it up.
Yeah, just bring it up real quick. I want to show something that is interesting about what that guy said about how it works, and then what I'm seeing on. I want to make sure I have the right thing up though here. Oh, I guess it's the Wikipedia for the 1960 Valdivia earthquake. If you bring up that one.
VALDE VIA.
Yeah.
Valdivia earthquake. Okay.
Did he not say that it hit New Zealand and Hawaii at the same time?
Yep.
Okay, so scroll down and you'll see a map on the right-hand side that's got the colored map. Keep going, keep going, keep going a little further. Keep going. Oops. Wait, where did you miss it here? Valdivia earthquake. What is it across from? Mine's across from where it says tsunamis. Let me see where's yours at.
Slides.
Oh no, there it goes.
Tsunamis.
There,
Okay.
that map. That one. Yeah, click that and open that.
Yeah,
So
this
I
is the
don't-
one he used.
Well, but why does it show that it hit Hawaii at 15 hours and New Zealand at 12? And that's not concentric circles.
Oh, he said California though, didn't he?
Oh, I thought somebody said it hit. I thought he had said it hit Hawaii and New Zealand at the same time, but maybe I wasn't listening to what he said. But that's not concentric circles. What's going on with the fifth circle around the orange one? That one, like, you can't just make up circles. I thought he said it was concentric circles and that it hit, and then he said it hit New Zealand. I'm sorry, it hit Australia from the south, which in their drawing it does, but that does not equal concentric circles. They're just it basically drew these lines based off of what they, I guess.
Well, the concentricness would tend to go away, right, if land is blocking them. So theoretically, if this was all water, in theory, then you would supposedly see concentric circles of waves going out from the epicenter here, right?
Right. So it would never hit. He said it hit Australia from the southeast, which this drawing shows. It's showing that the green waves are hitting the south of Australia from the southeast, but that's not what a concentric circle would do. Concentric circle never hit Australia.
No. They're concentric circle. I'm looking at a ball in my hand right now, and a concentric circle going on would never hit Australia at the southeast.
I'd have to go to my other computer. My other computer has the old Google Earth on it, where I'd be able to draw circles. Maybe I'll go do that real quick. But here, I mean, the thing is about looking at this map or basing anything off this. Well, that's obviously nobody believes that's the shape of anything. So that's one of the issues, right? It's just funny.
And there is also underland connections. There is some type of bounce effects in Antarctica. Could be a lot of things also involved. It's not just because the Earth is a sphere.
Right. And what is actually moving during a tsunami?
I can't get into it.
What is moving the water, you mean?
Yeah,
I'm told they're not presenting.
No, I am now. I saw it.
What? Oh, so
I wasn't presenting my map. Sorry. But I am now, so we are presenting. So continue on.
No, I was saying what water moves during a tsunami? It cannot be the entire ocean water. When a tsunami happens, clearly it cannot be that the entire depth of the ocean is moving along, right? I'm just wondering.
No, that's not how waves work.
Right. Well, even with waves, it's not really. It's more wind blowing the surface water, right?
Right.
Correct. It's they work in peaks and that, but the actual bottom underneath it is not moving. Is very little trouble. You're right.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering. All right, that was all the question I have. I've got to look into tsunamis. I didn't know how they work, but I just, obviously your brain tells you it can't be moving vast amounts of water, and so they really, if we even give it, I'll just use the globe math. You're probably talking 8,000 miles to get to Hawaii, 15 hours. So the wave moves about 500 miles an hour, right? About as fast as a plane. Okay.
And mind you, also that current map that Cami was showing, when you change those currents and you project it onto a flat Earth map, well, this is what we get. Now we get something that makes that we actually are getting concentric circles of counterflowing current directions, right? So essentially what's happening is this tsunami would be crossing several barriers of east-west current changes, right? So who knows how that would affect it. But I have a feeling that, since we know that the Earth is flat, that this is most likely going to come out in favor of the flat Earth. And that's why I think everybody needs to keep an eye on this.
Okay, and the other thing is Zach told me he dropped into my Scott chat, which I cannot get into without closing this show because I am such a rookie. The tides and the flat Earth magnetism, and I think he dropped it into my personal. But when you mark on an AE the tides and the magnetic patterns, again, it makes a lot of sense with the way the tsunamis are hitting, and that we can do on another. I think the current showed it too, but it's if you can ask him to drop it to you, you can show them. I'm not able to. But it is another, as soon as you start putting the other factors into what's going on, it starts to really look bad for the globe. It's hardly
no surprise there. Zach, can you drop that to me, whatever you dropped to Cami?
Tsunamis are crazy too, because boats that are out in the ocean don't even notice them. The wave goes right underneath them, and they don't even notice.
Right. It's only when they hit a land. Right.
I need to add Zach to this group in order to do that.
And so I think a lot more goes into it too. If we looked at the depth of the ocean over those places, because I'm reading here that the waves travel at a predictable speed, and it's the square root of 9.81 times the water depth. So again, it's not as simple as it just moves in concentric circles and gets everywhere equal distance at equal time. If you're talking about deep areas of the ocean, it's going to be different than shallow. So it takes a lot more looking into than just concentric circles and got here at the wrong time, therefore globe.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Okay, so Zach, I have added you to the call, which should bring you in. At least you can post the chat now. And then I will go ahead and bring that up. All right. Okay. So we still have everybody. Are you still with us? Austin, you still with us?
Austin,
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
I'm here. Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, we're not too far away from needing to wrap up here, but I do want to see what Zach has. And I assume Cammie, you're looking at Zach. He's aware. Oh, there it is. Yep, there it is. Okay.
I do not see what Zach's presenting.
I will.
Okay.
Here, I'll bring it over. Oops. Stop sharing. Okay, so I share this screen. And then show that. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
completely.
Okay, is that what we're supposed to be looking at?
I think it's that one that we're supposed to be looking at. This is that is, by the way, just showing a Ferrocell representation of a magnetic field that we reproduced under the Ferrocell, but that's a different show. What you're looking at here looks remarkably the same. It's our actual tidal pattern and how they work in and out and how they work, around. And so with the tides, you have to definitely, when looking at things, take into consideration, again, look at on your tide, look at your bottom hitting from the coast and where it would hit and go around to Australia. And that, by the way, that current that is flowing between South America and up around to Australia, if you run your cursor on it, that is one hell of a fast current. The circumpolar right there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see it and pull it and going around? Right there and into New Zealand.
Yeah.
If you follow that current from South America out and around to New Zealand and Australia, that does seem to pattern exactly how they were hit. I know that is a very quick, the fastest current that we have.
Yeah.
Just from other works. But this is showing our tides, where they lay, how they go, and they happen to perfectly match our declination and our magnetic pattern. It's one of those little pattern coincidences. So if you pull up like the Ferrocell picture, see the picture of the magnetics there? Go back to the Ferrocell picture.
That one?
Uh-huh. And
Oops.
if you see, yep, you'll see that you'll have your quadrupole in the center, your two dipoles on the side, and it will create your same circuitry magnetically as the tidal pattern. So that's a whole other show, but it's
Oh, wow, that's interesting. Yes, and being as how water is diamagnetic.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
So that feeds right into what we're going, but it would be, I would take over the show and we'd have another 4 or 5 hours to do that today.
And this is, of course, why ball earthers don't understand this, because they think the tides are caused by the moon.
No, not at all.
Not even close. There is no correlation. In fact, the correlation that they show for the tides causing the moon is ridiculous. It's so far out of reality.
Well, first of all, because start bending time space between the moon and the water. So that is the the starting point, which is something completely insane. There is no connection.
Yeah. Yep.
By the way, what you just took off of the screen is a homegrown picture that was grown at our house. And if you wonder what happens to donations and things like that with the magnets, we are looking at patterns on different configurations and matching and learning as much as we can. So that is, it looks rough. It's our own work, but I'm really proud of it.
Yep. Yeah, it's amazing how Cami and Zach were able to reproduce the mainstream's depiction of the magnetic fields over the Earth. And they did it using a ferrocell and magnet combinations.
Two pillars.
Yeah, two pillars that go back to Joaquin and Boaz. This whole, notion about that being part of the key to flat Earth, which I was amazed because Cami was talking to, what's that guy's name? They were going to build one too. The Sephiroth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which all, when yours starts off with Joaquin and Boaz, and they were just starting off using the spheres, concentric spheres type thing. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, it's amazing.
That is a digress, but the magnetics and laying out the magnetics the way that they actually would create a centered counter rotation in the center where all magnets would point that way. The way to get all magnets to point to the north is simply running an electric wire around the outer rim, or basically creating a boundary.
Yep.
So
exactly.
we're doing things where we're like recreating. It's not ready for prime time yet because we experiment over and over and over again. But we have, basically replicated where you can make all of the magnets point into the things, get a lot of the different readings and that. And so, I really thank everybody for the support of all the work we're doing in the background and in the front ground.
Yep, indeed. So again, here we look at these currents, ocean currents on a ball Earth, in that same general zone, and how they appear on a flat Earth. And as you can see, the flat Earth projection, the AE projection, is much more coherent. It makes a lot more sense. They are perfectly, organized synchronistically, going east to west, west to east, east to west. Almost like it was engineered that way. Makes so much more sense than looking at it under this projection, which is basically just this kind of randomized, mess that really doesn't have any rhyme or reason to it. So yeah, if you guys haven't checked out Earth.nullskull, well, you can't really see the AE projection on Earth.nullskull, but bobwins.com has got the ocean currents, and there's a couple other ones out there now, because Earth.nullskull.net for years and years and years had the AE projection, but they realized as soon as the flat earthers, were able to demonstrate things like this. If we go to AE and we look at like wind currents, and we go down to, let's just go 10 hectopascals, right? You start looking at wind currents like this or like this, right? Look at how beautiful and linear and, this works out. It just makes perfect sense. And of course, they couldn't have that because people could see the symmetry in this. They could see how it made so much sense. And they could also see how the flight levels on these high wind areas, that the flights from Antarctica, so to speak, to Australia or wherever, you could get in one of these high winds aloft areas that go a couple hundred kilometers per hour, and you could actually make those flight times, right? But of course, they don't want you to see that. So what they did is they just took out the AE projection because they couldn't allow anybody to see this and how perfectly it all works on a flat Earth. There you have it.
One more thing, Bob, it's not letting me add it in. Never mind. I was just going to, I can maybe do it a different way. Let me get to it this way.
Can you post me a
link?
link?
I was going to have you just, I'm going to post you a link of the declination map really quick to show you with the tides and everything, how it's all the same pattern and it all works exactly with what they're saying. So
okay.
1 second. I'm going to get off and look for it.
Oh, all right. That sounds good. All right. Well, I think then as far as that, and we got the tsunami and I think that's pretty much all I had. Going back through this, which is cool because we're coming up on our 3-hour mark. So that actually worked out well. All you guys on YouTube got a bonus show today. And oh, okay, there's that. So let's bring that up. Oh, wait.
And the tides and the magnets, yeah. And you'll see it's all the same picture.
Yeah, hang on just a sec.
I had the picture up on my screen. I just wanted me to not copy paste it and source it the right way. That's what took a second.
Yeah. Let's see. I think that's the one I want.
I dropped it in your show chat. That's
yeah,
it.
I see it. Okay, so does everybody see that?
This, for those who do not know what they're looking at, this is the flight map that pilots use to fly by on declination. And if you'll notice at the center of the map, you have, again, the quadrupole. And at the edges, at the bottom edge, you'll see a dipole pattern. And up at the edge to the top right, you're going to see that the red and the blue really do have to come together. But there is at land, to be perfectly honest, but there it is off the map. It is off of our declination map, but your red and blue cannot just keep on wandering off to the top the way they are. This is magnetic patterns. They don't do that. They finish themselves and close. So this tells us not only by looking at it and playing with magnets, it tells you not only is like there's stuff off of the grid lines in the map, but it pretty much points to right where it is. And it's between Africa and South America. For people that are curious about that, on where the best place would be to look for extra land, the magnetics of our realm require it to be there.
Yep. It's amazing. It is amazing how something that is clearly an electrical construct and everything about it is electrical, whether it's electrostatic or electromagnetic. And of course, the central core component to those is something that is simply said not to exist, and that would be the luminiferous ether. But believe me, guys, at this date and time, there is so much evidence for the luminiferous ether. It is off the flippin' chart. Einstein was so wrong and so far off. And of course, they can't ever back off that position. All they can do is sit there and support and say how he was right about everything when, you know, he was debunked from the get-go. And it's just amazing that, you know, these people that have been through academia and talk about, oh, I took physics. It's like, really? Then can't you understand what is happening here? Can't you understand why the luminiferous ether is absolutely necessary to be a medium for the transmission of any type of wave, electromagnetic wave or anything like that, light wave? It is not a particle, for God's sakes. Simply is not a particle. And, you know, you start getting into understanding that, and you can also start understanding why you can have different rates of inductions and you can have the speed of light change as it goes through different mediums. That is something that cannot be explained by the particulate model of light, right? That is a particle. Can't happen, right? So anyway, just something that I wanted to throw out there. And
I have a weird one to throw out too. I have a really weird one to throw out here, but it's just completely off topic, but it's something that, like, while looking at it, occurred. This is just from the cross in religions, the Father, Spirit, and Holy, or the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and the sign of the cross that some people make. You reach up, you say the Father, you pull down, it's the Son, but you do side to side, and it's the Holy Spirit. Meaning to me, like it could very, very well be another, may not be, but it could also very easily represent your two pillars, bringing in the spirit or the ether. The way that where they are positionally works with the Sephiroth, and works where the poles would be magnetically, that you would have on either side the spirit that creates the ether, the magnetic field, and then running up the center. Just another way of looking at some of the symbology that overlays perfectly.
Yep. Exactly. And of course, this is the kind of stuff where they try and shroud it in mysticism and then tell you it's either evil or dark or satanic, and don't ever look at this. You know, it's all quackery. Don't ever go there. Look at this. They don't want you to understand it. And this is one of their very effective ways of, you know, keeping that from happening. Or they will simply teach, you know, bald-faced lies in universities. which is amazing. And we've covered that several times on this show about on how, half the stuff that is taught in university is a point blank lie, right? And we have come up with demonstration after demonstration, professor after professor saying the exact same thing, but they don't see it as anything bad. It's a harmless little white lie to them, because it helps them to teach their point in a certain concept. The only problem is that concept is incorrect, right? So anyway, all right, guys. Well, I think we're going to probably call that a show then. So I'm going to go around one more time really quick and see if anybody else has anything they want to talk about. Now, so John, we will start with you, sir. You got anything coming up that you're doing special this week?
Yeah, actually, I've got some content that I'm trying to wrap up in the next couple of days. So just keep an eye out on the Morgile channel on YouTube for some new content there. And yeah, I had a lot of fun. Great show today, guys. Thanks to everyone out there in the chat and everybody that sent in tips. Thank you so much for that. Love you guys. And we'll see you again, I guess, coming up on Wednesday.
Yep. Sounds good. All right. And Austin, if you're still with us, you got anything that you're going to be doing? I think tonight you said you were going to do a broadcast, or later?
Yeah. I plan on doing a stream tonight. So I'm actually on the road right now, and then I'll be meeting up with Chris here in a second, Idaho, and then I'll do a comeback stream tonight, and we'll get back on the road after that. So that's kind of the plan, and then maybe I'll try and lay out where we're gonna go. I got to be back at Yellowstone for the 19th for court, so it's kind of derailing things a bit. We're gonna have to stay further east than intended, go to court, and then we'll be heading west after that.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, good luck with that. And, a lot of people have sent in some legal information. In fact, I have some to forward to you. It was something that Rose 777 sent to me that they just covered on Crow 777 about being able to represent yourself in court without using the attorneys or, and being able to do it effectively. And it looked like it was a really good thing. So I will forward that on to you. And so you'll have it for your court appearance on the 19th.
Awesome. Sounds good, bro. Much appreciated.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So, Iru, what do you got, sir?
Well, when the Flat Earth meetings ends, you need to recovery. You need a few days to recovery and get back to regular, life, especially for me, because here in Switzerland, I don't have so much people that like in Argentina or Spain. So I'm a little alone, but fortunately in this Flat Earth meeting, I meet a few people from Colombia and from other Spanish countries that are living here in Switzerland. So I be more in touch with these people. I also start because before the Flat Earth meeting, I was invited to give a short presentation in a special place, the place where Rudolf Steiner create his philosophy and create his campus, if you want to see in that way, which is the Rudolf Steiner Goetheanum is the name. And I was invited unofficial, a building in the same campus to give a Flat Earth presentation to people here in Switzerland, which was a little surprise because the people was beyond the 45, 50 years old, between 40 and 75 years old. So it was really nice to see, more I say old people, but not because they are old in terms of their minds, but just taking the age as reference to say old people. But it was really nice to see, again, old people being open to the discussion of the Flat Earth. There was newbies because nobody ever questioned the shape of the Earth. So it was a really nice approach that they received from my presentation, and also it was very welcome, the topic, and they proposed to make some type of between 15 days, two times in a month, give a little presentation that the presentation that I already have like the electric universe, sometimes of the education behind the global versus flat earth, that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a really nice opportunity to bring new people, especially here from Switzerland, which is a very close country without the people here are all living too much well to start questioning the system. So that is something that I'm going to spend a few of my energy and time to bring more new people from these areas. And beside that, keep working in my Spanish and English channel. I am uploading a few things in Rockfin too. So trying to get back to, as usual, making my work.
Awesome. Okay, that sounds good, Hero. And hey, I want to do a special shout out to all the trolls for getting our watch count up there so high today. That's awesome, you guys. Of course, unfortunately, nobody was able to read a word you said because of my crack team of moderators. So, you guys are really losers. You know that? I mean, really, get a life. Either that or try and expand your mind. Try and use your mind for something other than, something to hang your hat on, because it's really retarded the way that you act and the things that you say. It is utterly pathetic. And anybody with half a brain can see that you don't have any. And it's just pathetic. So, just want to give you a shout out because you're idiots. There you go. All right. And last but not least, so Camera Joe, what do you got? Anything coming up?
I have playing with the Karen B, going down to the venue and working on all of the Flattober Fest stuff. We were going to build out some of the models and Tinker Toys just to again do some different ways of looking at it modeling. We have some people in the chat that like what I'm doing, the magnetic tide and the different things. I am happy to share this with everybody, just on smaller channels right now, because I'm looking into possibilities, not I know this is the answer, and I don't like corrupting ways of looking at possibilities with the fact that no, we don't live on a globe. So I try to do a lot of my work in the background, but it is not hidden work. If you go to Awesome Austin's channel, the Melodome, you can see a great episode touching on the magnetics in that. I also on my channel, even the rocks cry out and some different things. And if you want a one-on-one or do a small channel thing, I will answer any questions and show you where I am on it. I really, again, appreciate the support, but until it's at a completely more confident level, again, you just be careful about crossing over and mixing messages that right now we're proving the globe is not, is a lie. And that is the most important thing, how it works. It's not a simple answer. It's a system, and it's beautiful. The more you look at it, the more it's beautiful. But again, the mainstay of the channel is busting the damn globe and the lie.
Yep, there you go. All right, cool.
So,
oh, go ahead, Jern.
No, I was just looking at something that I think is very telling. I'm going to share my screen real quick, and then we can go just real quick.
Oh, all right.
Share screen and this screen. At least as far as I can tell, and again, this is not great research. It's just momentarily. So you can see the globe?
I can see the globe.
We live here, and it spins, and we fly through space. It's cool. You guys got to wake up to that. All right, so if you're looking at this earthquake that or this tsunami, where I was baffled is, okay, it supposedly happened here, right? You're going to have concentric circles working its way out this way towards Hawaii. And I want you to see, so this is the main island of Hawaii. So I would assume this part of Hawaii got battered, right? But you look it up and only 61 people died. And so I said, okay, where did they die? He's looking along this line here. Well, they died in Hilo. Keep going to find Hilo. Hilo's over here.
It's on the other, yeah, holy cow.
It follows the currents.
The only damage happened here. 61 people died. Nobody died along here. And if you kind of start to pull this back and look at how would that have wrapped around here coming from down here, I'm just wondering now, I'm looking at my flat earth map, and it kind of looks like that would be tilted a little bit more in this direction from my map, though, at least what I'm looking at, that it would kind of be, think of the flat earth map, how it kind of is going to swing things around, whereas it might even point Hilo a little bit more towards this direction. So
awesome.
Anyway, I'll keep looking into that, because it doesn't make a lot of sense that, again, they talk about New Zealand, it was hit by the same time, or whatever, totally different things. New Zealand didn't have anybody die. In fact, they say like the highest the wave went was like 1.7 feet. That's not much.
Yep.
So,
So that's awesome.
Because it doesn't seem like it's everything that they want to claim, as they always, make everything seem like it's a no-brainer. And there's weird things about it too. I mean, the 138 people died in Japan. Some 22 hours later.
That's because they do exactly what they claim we do. They look at exactly what confirms their bias, and they stop right there, and they don't look any further, and they rush to the presses, right? And then we look at it and go, well, hold on a minute here. And it turns out now this guy is looking like a complete clown show, because it looks like this is going to be a very strong predictor for the flat Earth model. So, thank you. Somebody get me a preparation H. You're awesome for giving that to us.
And again, you have to look into again, and he's not the first person to come up with that. I've been told that, I don't know, whether it was a year or two ago, somebody kept saying about this tsunami. And I remember looking into it. The other thing that was, there's people complaining about the times, and the times weren't reported correctly. And there's a whole thing about it that needs to be looked into. But again, when I hear somebody come out like that, the guy didn't think of any of that on his own, right? He's like, oh, I'm going to use this as proof, but somebody else gave him that proof. So unfortunately, what he doesn't realize, or what people don't realize, is when flat earthers come with things, they're things that came from our thinking, not from someone else who said this, and I'm going to just go grab that and then repeat it.
Exactly. Because we have to look at it deeper. And do we make mistakes? Absolutely, we do. Have we made some mistakes that make us look like freaking idiots? Absolutely. But you know what? We also make some pretty profound observations that are simply globe killers. And we have so many of those. Yeah. We have so many globe killers right now. It's beyond belief.
Right. Like the AE map, and how they had to turn that off, and how I made them change the planetarium software I used to use, because I used to fast forward 5,000 years and rewind 5,000 years. And for some reason, the North Pole star, Polaris, stayed in the same location. And I brought that up on one of my shows, and then one of my guys, or when somebody emailed me and says, how did you change the time? I can only go back, 500 years. Like, no, just keep going. It'll go all the way to 5,000. They're like, nope. So I go, look, sure enough, you could only do it to 500 now. And then I messaged the guy, why did you change this? What happened? Oh, well, it's because the software doesn't allow for like, okay, look, if your software doesn't move the North Pole star, therefore in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, your software would be off. You have to have the real North Pole star moving. And he's like, no, the software or something. And then he just changed it to 500 years and left it alone. So now we're supposed to believe that they forgot to put into the software of these planetariums that the North Pole star is supposed to be moving a certain amount of miles, or what is it, 1 degree every 70 years?
Yep. You know what? I'll have to send you over my copy of Starry Night. I'll put it up on an FTP link for you, because it's on DVD. And if you don't let it update, it won't do that. And so, you can go any direction. You'll find that all it does is just loops. They say that we will have a new North Pole star in some hundreds of thousands of years or whatever. But
no, it's not even that long.
Not even that long. No, right. It's a very short amount of time. Every 2,600 years, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. And yet we've never seen any relative motion of the North Pole star since they came out with the concept of constellations, which has been like all of human history. Never moved a smidgen. And to me, that is really good evidence favoring the flat Earth and flying in the face of the ball Earth theory, because the whole thing with the the rotation, the precession of the ball.
There's something wrong with that too, because if you follow along with constellations, it's like, how did the whole world have the same constellations, the same names, the same kind of connections? Sounds to me like total fabrication. You would have the Chinese with a completely different set of characters or animals or whatever people drew. You would have something different, but yet we have this standardized thing that was like passed along to everybody. And then the biggest thing is, in the pyramids, the shafts are aimed directly at Polaris. Yet they tell us that they were built 4,000 years ago. So then they say that there was a different pole star there 4,000 years ago. Okay, great. So that means between 4,000 years ago and today, that the shafts just pointed nowhere. And we just happen to live in the perfect time that now the shafts point towards Polaris. So
and the pyramids happen to align under Orion, right? I don't think so, Tim.
And And then, so the next 4,000 years, it'll be pointed at nothing again. And if you're good enough to be born in the year 6020, you'll be lucky enough to see it, I guess, point it to North Star again. Fantastic.
Yep. Yeah. It really is too bad that, all these baller trolls don't take the time to actually look into this and just parrot the mainstream, because if they had any idea how dumb they really looked, they would really be embarrassed, as they should be. But
yeah,
all you can do is keep putting it out there, and they'll quietly go back and look at it and go, oh, maybe. And then, of course, they will come out then acting like they were a flat earther all along, which is fine, whatever. We've all been there. We all believed in the ball. And, flat earthers, by and large, are some of the most intelligent people on earth. The elite know this, and they are running scared. They are petrified of the things that we bring. They have been watching Globebusters for 6 years, and every time either we come up with a revelation or Jaron does, ironically, somehow it gets changed worldwide. So, that's a huge compliment to us, because they are sitting there watching us, debunk them and figuring out what they need to take down or change to, not look like such big idiots, frankly. So anyway, all right, guys. Well, it's 6 o'clock here Eastern. So I'm going to get out of here, and gosh, there's a whole lot more super chats in there. And I'm just going to say thank you to all you guys. Let me just read a couple really, really quick. Let's see. Let's go to tips. All right. This will just take a minute. So Pat Deemers, thank you so much. Mage Smith, so much. Thank you. Vespa says just a little something to keep you guys going. Wish I could give more, but wanted to thank you all for the great job you do in keeping the truth alive. Vespa, thank you so much. That's a very generous tip. Very much appreciated. Sopko, thank you so much. Troll blood always finds its level. Good one. Flat for Good says Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app, a wonderful accumulation of the preponderance of the evidence. Amen to that, Flat for Good. Thank you so much, Tom O. Reform Bear, thank you so much for the tip. Christopher Hickman says, keep up the great work. Karen B says, love you guys, and Flaptoberfest 2021. We'll be there, Karen, and thank you so much for the tip. Haska Sun, thank you so much for the tip. Cujo G says, you guys rock. Yes, so do you, Cujo. Cujo is our F-16 pilot who totally rocks. You have the distinction of being the first flat earther, at least openly flat earther F-16 pilot, which is awesome. Cold Brews says, much respect. Thank you so much. Time Months. Wow, another big, holy cow, Time. You are awesome. I'm going to keep putting those other shows up on Rockfin for you. Thank you so much for that tip. That's awesome. Richard Tuffertiller, I think we are back to you, and Chris McGee. Okay, I think that's everybody. And if I missed anybody, please forgive me. I didn't mean to. And we will finish off with Jaron if he has anything else to say, and then we'll call it a week. So, Jaron, what do you got coming up, sir?
Nothing much. I forgot. I just have to keep an eye. I'm on some podcasts on Wednesday, and we got the Thursday, the news show, GNN. That's Thursdays, and then the Baby Truther show, and then Friday Jaronism show. So lots going on. Just keep an eye on my channel. Rockfin's a big place to be.
Yeah, buddy. All right, cool. All right, guys. So we will be back on Wednesday. And so we will see you then. And today, I guess, just turned into kind of a bonus for the YouTube. I wouldn't normally do that, but just kind of went that way. So there you have it. All right. So we will see you on Wednesday, and then the Sunday following that. And until then, be good to each other. Don't lie to each other. Open your mind, because there is truth inside. Peace out, everybody.